Pokemon's heavy RNG influence.
Oh boy, RNG bullshit. Oh, I know how bad that is in fucking the
many a player
Pokemans.
not swayed by the heat of battle, a sentiment which mysteriously disappears when the dice doesn't roll their way, and they get crit, paralyzed, full paralyzed.
Oh dude, I fucking hate paralysis so fucking much. Honestly, I feel like that's one of the only statuses that should be limited. Other than obviously Gen 9 Sleep, but that's just because Gen 9 Sleep is terrible. Which actually, I think they did ban Gen 9 Sleep if I'm not mistaken. Except for niche options like Relic Song, I guess. But like, why the fuck would you ever use that, dude? 20% is not reliable, I'm sorry.
Melodramatic meltdowns, hypocritically clashing with pretensions towards cool-headed logic, are a foundational aspect of the competitive Pokemon experience. We ourselves take pride in the fact that we don't make fair-weather excuses for RNG. As far as
so I need wood now, right?
Most of it is nonsense we'd be better off without. Not all aspects of RNG are equally.
I can't go that way because there's animals that way that I want.
We gathered the moves that, both via our opinion and general consensus, most merit a response to blood-boiling urge to find and send it to the bottom of the Pacific. So with the exceptions of evasion and one-hit KO moves, which are so clearly ridiculous that they receive clauses banning them in singles, join us as we find catharsis in burning out our venomous feelings on the most hated RNG moves of all time. But before we start, once again, this video is sponsored by Raycon.
Oh yeah, Pack Earth, whatever. I need to do that
Black
first.
Friday and Cyber Monday deals from the best in the high-quality audio business. Look, everyday tasks can be super tedious. Make them more seamless by listening to audio while doing these tasks. I use the everyday earbuds literally every day for many tasks. I use them while I wash dishes and cook. I use them while I edit, and of course, I use them while I
Let Helen cook.
One of the best features of the new everyday earbuds is that they're sweat resistant.
I think he cooked with this video and the thumbnail art, dude. It's good.
While I exercise. And speaking of audiobooks, I listen to a ton of them while I do tasks. It's how I absorb knowledge while
he does tasks,
I'm always
right.
with content and working on other ventures, so I want to absorb as much knowledge as possible. In fact, I listen to so much stuff that you think I'd run out of earbud battery quickly. But luckily, yet another one of my favorite features of Raycon, its battery life, comes in handy here because it has a whopping 32
okay, so
hour
here's what I'm gonna do about
and
this.
It's got a quick charge function.
This is starting to get obnoxious, and I mean like obnoxious, bro.
To connect to other wireless Bluetooth devices to multiple devices, but luckily with Raycon,
to do this, I really am starting to get annoyed. Filling this in with cobblestone, effective immediately, bro. Dude, how much is there? God damn it.
And thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring this.
Oh yeah, I forgot I had signs up right there. Damn it. Okay, we'll just do it to right here. It's fine.
Speaking of burning, we're starting off with the stingent degeneracy that is Scald.
Oh yeah, Scald burn. Dude, that was so broken that even Game Freak had to nerf that shit. Doesn't surprise me, honestly, but you know.
Serious outbursts seem not just understandable, but necessary, in the hopes of causing a change. Even if nothing happens, it is better to have tried, no matter how many others may mock you for trying to better things through yapping. Because it is far better than what they would have you do, which is sit and suffer in silence.
Oh no, I agree.
Scald has caused a lot of yapping over the years. What makes Scald so powerful? Isn't it just another variant of Lava Plume, Discharge, Sludge Bomb, and Body Slam? 80 base power, 30% secondary status effect. Why, we're glad you asked. Scald is uniquely overbearing because, number one, its status effect is super effective against the type that is immune to it. You can block Lava Plume burns with the fires that resist it, Discharge paralysis with grounds and electrics, Sludge Bomb poison with poison.
If it didn't affect waters, it wouldn't be nearly as oppressive to deal with. Unfortunately, that is not the case, sadly.
This brings up to point number two, which is that Scald is a stab move given to water type, which means that there are a lot of viable top-tier Scald users out there, far more than the users of the other moves. And what's particularly pernicious is that waters, with their famously excellent defensive profiles, get a lot of opportunities to hit the field and spam Scald. When you consider this in conjunction with the fact that the odds to burn one out of a mere 2 Scalds is already 51%, that's right, you're the lucky one if neither of the two burn you.
What
then
the
you
fuck?
See how Scald gets out of hand. But are burns really that bad?
Yes.
Though, you ask?
They have your fucking attack, dude. Of course they're terrible. And in old generations, they quartered your attack. Or maybe that was speed.
Oh, they're more manageable, sure. But dealing with them is still a massive hindrance for many Pokemon. Especially
damn
thanks to
it.
the RNG. One must fall back on a few specific choices.
I mean, I'll take the coal, I guess, but like,
is that you see two
dude.
waters, Toxapex, Slowtwins, Alomomola, and what have you, scalding each other until
Damn, we
something
went
happens.
all the way down to
Other
middle
anti-Scald
strata just to
options
bust
like
through this
Magikarp and
stupid
Poison
gravel.
Tail, though. They are limited and not guaranteed to
That is
last
very,
against
very
certain
funny,
Scald
though, I
types.
will at
As
least
for
say.
Fable and Gliscor to take on Keldeo or Manaphy, for example. What about Water Absorb or Storm Drain? Also far from safe into these threats. To say nothing of how the likes of Gastrodon hates the Toxic so commonly carried by Scald users. It's not just Scald in a vacuum after all. Plus, these water immunities like Gastro and Seismitoad run Scald themselves. Finally, Lunberry is to prevent Scald as counterplay, as it's almost useless to actually deal with the issue of switching into Scald. Scald is so absurd that you see moves like Toxapex staying in a Landier, Styrian, or Garchomp, for instance, willing to take that monstrous Earthquake so they can try and get a Scald burn off. This is the common theme among these RNG moves. They are often used as a catch-all quote-unquote counter to everything. Should the dice roll your way, even if it's unfavorable, just go for it and say, oh well, it didn't work out if you don't get the percentage more than twice as likely to not work, rather than to try and figure out.
Surprised they never nerfed Burn and Smog in
Is
singles.
that these moves are high enough percentage to work a significant enough percentage of the time, even if they aren't the best move, and their effect is so crippling. And this is extremely true for the Scald everything mentality of those whose counter to everything is to burn them. Another factor to consider, Lava Plume Heatran could just as easily Will-O-Wisp if they really wanted to inflict burns, and so on for the others. Most waters cannot burn without Scald. The exception, Volcanion, whose Mega Scald of sorts, Steam Eruption, is a fierce move but only has 8 PP, and imperfect accuracy to boot, while coming from a Pokemon with a Stealth Rock weakness and no reliable recovery. Rotowash and Jellicent can burn too, but they have to do so with Will-O-Wisp, not gamble with Scald. Jellicent can and often does Scald as well, of course, but if you have it in facing something it must burn immediately, you're going with Wisp. Another water would have to take the Scald gamble. The core of any RNG move is, of course, the power of the effect and the percentage of its activation. And this becomes a problem when the effect is disproportionately powerful.
Dude, the fact that it was
too
this
often.
fucking
You can
much is
mindlessly
just
spam the move and be
ridiculous,
rewarded.
dude.
Hell, you can make
This
a
is
move
why
that
I
is
detest
worse than
Gravel
another
and
at your
fucking
disposal
hate it with a
and get
passion,
bailed out
dude.
anyway.
I mean,
Here's
it's
a
useful for
classic
making
cross
paths, don't get me
generational
wrong,
example.
but
You've got a
holy
water
hell,
type
it is a
with
pain in
Ferrothorn.
the ass
Should
to
you
get
go
rid
to
of.
the Ferrothorn counter you surely have on your competently built team? You could, sure, or you could just hope that Scald burns, even though not getting the burn means you're giving Ferrothorn a free turn at best and risking getting destroyed by Power Whip at worst. We're sure this will inspire a response in some that Ferrothorn would be broken in a Scaldless world, and make no mistake, that is unbelievably stupid. If Scald's RNG is the only thing standing between Ferrothorn and brokenness, Ferrothorn is almost surely Uber anyway. Nobody competent will actually make that argument, we hope. And if dice rolling is the most reasonable way you can proceed to contain something as excellent yet exploitable as Ferrothorn, then you need to get good. There's also the fact that Scald rewards overly safe play. Let's say you have the water out on the field against something you scare out. In this instance, Keldeo against Heatran. If he had a Surf Keldeo, you wouldn't always want to attack the Heatran because Latios.
Oh, did I actually get it? No fucking way, dude. Let's go.
Switch in with ease. So you might want to predict. Either you have to use a different move with Keldeo to hit the switch harder, or you pull.
I'm not doing it the normal way, dude. Fuck that. I don't want to have to use Clay.
You run the risk of Heatran staying in and punishing you.
The fact that you can actually do it fast enough, dude. I'm almost out of space for fucking Clay. Are you shitting me?
Check the Mega Scissor you have in the back. With Scald though, you just click Scald and have a good chance to win either way. If Heatran stays in, it gets obliterated. And if Latios or Mega Venusaur come in, they have a good chance.
Dude, no, Scald is busted. Like, no shot, dude. It's fucking busted. That's why they got rid of it in this fucking Gen 9, dude. What did I just do? Stop. Damn it. I just knocked my fucking microphone down. Oh, look at that smiley face. LOL. Hilarious.
Anyone who believes that we should is free to put their money where their mouth is and campaign for the unbanning of one-hit KO moves if you like playing in such utter chaos. No, we are not saying Scald is the same as a one-hit KO move.
But it might as well be a one-hit KO move because your Pokemon is basically useless if it gets burned.
The deal with the line of thinking is the same cop-out used to argue against everything broken. Of course, a good player will be prepared for Scald in the same way they'd be prepared for Genesect or whatever broken Pokemon plaguing OU. This isn't an argument against its brokenness. Overall, Scald has been driving players absolutely insane ever since it was first introduced as
what happened? Why is my volume messed up? What the hell? It ripped my headphones out too? What?
Sneasler is a major threat even without the
okay, I think I fixed it. Hang on, let me make sure I fucking fixed it. Okay, yes, my microphone is still operational. Thank goodness, dude.
However, rest assured, Direclaw is
I was about to say, I know you're hungry. I'm not stupid, you know. Okay, we fixed this. Now this doesn't look like shit anymore.
Universally agreed that Direclaw was incredibly problematic in its own right. Oh, and it doesn't settle for singles either. Sneasler has in fact become...
Oh yeah, Direclaw is even worse, dude. 50-50 chance to get paralysis Paralysis, Poison, or Slept? Yeah, fuck no, dude. Wait, why didn't they ban Dire Claw? I mean, if it has the chance to sleep, wouldn't that make it a sleep move then, technically? I mean, sure, it's not guaranteed, but it's like 30% out of the 3. That means that you have a 50% chance of getting fucked in the ass by something.
But as an 80 base power physical poison move. Alternatively, you can think of it
Yo,
like
this soda's good, what the hell?
With sleep and
Pomegranate flavored Italian soda. Sprouts,
Sprouts,
whatever you put in this, keep putting it in there. Tastes good. Tastes pretty good.
Yeah, you can see how that might be a
That's how I do this.
Right? Oh, but it gets better. You see, Dire Claw's proc rate is actually 50%. Yikes. So you switch into this beast, and status is probably coming your way.
Okay, nothing happens. Never mind. I don't know why I did that.
Sleep, things get really nasty. Switch their Sneasler answer in and get slept, and odds are it's not much of a Sneasler answer anymore, which is bad news considering how much it rips through with its huge attack speed and move pool. Resisting Dire Claw won't help much against the status assault.
I'm kind of surprised that Sneasler never got banned. I'm sure it probably got suspected, but it never actually received the boot.
Steel types do not want to come anywhere near Sneasler's base 130 attack stats post combat. Ah, but what about Golden Go? Immune to both stabs. Well, that's what Sneasler's Throat Chop is for. And that's
oh yeah, Sneasler's Throat Chop kills Golden Go. So yeah, oops. And it can just Terra Dork if it really wants to punish fucking... If it wants to punish its, if it wants to punish psychic types.
Already limited ability to take it on even further.
This is so efficient, dude. Holy shit. I should have done this in my last world. 300 hours world. It would have made my time a lot easier. It would have actually made my time worth more. I wasted so much time in that world, dude. I'm on fire right now. Sure, I maybe stalled a little bit here and there, but not bad.
It was more an irritating side occurrence because players weren't playing for full paralysis, more often than not. Sure, you had Paraspam teams that compounded the immobility effect with others.
I'm not gonna have enough dirt to do every single fucking level, but I will have enough dirt to do at least 2 or 3, maybe 4.
However favorable it might be. Generally, if something was spamming paralysis way back when, it was doing it to slow the opponent down first and foremost. For instance, if you paralyze a Heatran, it can no longer outspeed and check your Swords Dance superpower Scizor. However, eventually players discovered...
Okay, what time is it? Okay, it's midday. We're just gonna stay down here today and do this. Poop dog, I want poo. Give me your shit, please. Okay, we have a stack. That's not bad. That's a good start. Yeah, this is gonna take a while, unfortunately. Even with this semi-automation that I have, it's still gonna take forever. Hey, at least I finished the dumb fucking wiring and the mechanical power bit of it. That was the thing that I was dreading having to do. And for good reason. It's not just the fucking wiring that pisses me off, it's the fucking dumbass squids that piss me off. Like, dude, I got attacked like 20 fucking times, bro.
Of course, paralysis became more actively used as well.
This will be way better as a source of fucking spawnable blocks.
Even on non-para spam teams, whereas previously this would be frowned upon.
Theoretically, I could also get stoned, but I actually don't know how to make that, so yeah.
Given how high the odds were when you just needed one. Speaking of para spam, the distinction between para spam and non-para spam was blurred. Previously, non-para spam teams could still use Thunder Waves, of course, or even something like Discharge on Zapdos over Thunderbolt. But now paralysis was so overwhelmingly present and full para so actively fished for that it felt like every other team was a para spam team.
Dude, paralysis was so busted that even that's another one that Game Freak had to nerf, and they nerfed it to where it only halved your speed instead of quartering it.
Paralyze so much of the opposing team, especially since ground and electric types weren't necessarily going to be able to ward off many Thunder Wavers such as Clefable. Additionally, the fact that so many top tier Pokemon like Ferrothorn obtained the move made it downright effortless to spam. We focused mostly on T-Wave.
I'm surprised they never limited Thunder Wave. For sure that would have made sense back in Gen 5 anyways.
Outside of Jirachi, which of course can also T-Wave, but we must also mention Glare, which took off thanks to Superior and Zygarde, who spammed the move without...
Oh yeah, Glare, but that's pretty specific. To be fair, Superior having Glare is pretty nice. Its shallow-ass move pool is way more made up for with that move. Oh yeah, Zygarde. Oh yeah, forgot they had to ban it.
Became one of the most infuriating Pokemon in the game. It was already great without Glare, but with Para in the mix, hiding behind subs and boosting itself with contrary leaf storms, it was downright ridiculous. It could regularly muscle its way through checks like Tornado Steering with Para. Hell, even several variants of Heatran weren't safe should it drop low enough. Paralysis was called the best status in the game by several top players. And when you consider how impactful free turns are in a game where every turn is critical, it's easy to see why. Just as easy as it is to see how infuriating it is when those free turns pick up through luck and make you question if that so-called 25% is really programmed properly. Speaking of free turns, confusion might not seem as deadly since it goes away once you switch out, but the upside is that the chance to not do anything is a whopping 50%, and to add insult to injury, in addition to not doing anything, you actually damage yourself.
Yeah, confusion's annoying, but that's kind of a niche option in all honesty. You don't see it very often in modern play, mostly because the top players don't use such an inconsistent strategy. It can definitely work, but you have to be very smart to make it work. And most top players will not fall for it, they'll just switch out and nullify the confusion. Now, if it didn't go away, like if you switched, then yes, it'd definitely be more threatening, I suppose.
Pokemon like Thundurus and Klefki, which also bolstered the strat with Thunder Wave. Swagger's attack boosting would increase the damage a Pokemon did to itself with confusion, and was abusable with Foul Play, which got stronger the higher the opponent's attack. Swaggering the opponent was pure dice rolling. Not only did you click it against everything, you also did so risking greater damage to yourself when using it against physical attackers. As such, Swagger found itself banned from OU quite quickly, but no such recourse existed for the VGC player base, which found itself utterly dominated by Thundurus' swaggering antics, and it wasn't just Gen 6 either.
Oh, you could also swagger Mega Rayquaza holding a Person Bear or something, and then it would have the it would have the Swords Dance, and then you Dragon Dance and you win, basically. You Earthquake everything into dust. Yeah.
It almost didn't even matter what happened before. It just comes down to whether or not you could break through confusion. Indeed, Swagger is God. Swagger wasn't the only villainous vector of confusion though. Most famously in GPP, Machamps Can't Miss auto-confuse Dynamic Punch.
Oh yeah, Dynamic Punch. Yeah, dude, fuck that. Oh yes, no-guard Dynamic Punch. Disgusting.
Resisted it, simply to get the confusion on them. Payback ensures one couldn't feel particularly safe with the DP Immune Ghost, Rotom Appliance, and Gengar, and everything else was vulnerable to getting beaten down with confusion, especially in conjunction with Machamp's favorite support, the aforementioned Paralysis. The strategy became among Diamond and Pearl's most despised, with more recent times even clamoring for the removal of Dynamic Punch, given its encouragement of dumbed down play. When the percentage is so high that your move is usually to simply mash Dynamic Punch into every resist in front of you, from Gyarados to Zapdos, and it'll succeed whether or not it's your best move, and it being your best move as a result from the percentage being so obnoxiously high, the strategy came by its detestable nature, honestly. Dynamic Punch's capacity to miss was seen plenty in GSC too, as one of the few of the limited methods to try and break past Snorlax. Unreliable, sure, but if you had multiple chances to use the move, you could give yourself some decent odds. Still, as with every RNG aspect of Pokemon, some players were encouraged to simply go fishing ahead of everything else. Some even tried Dynamic Punch Jirachi in advance, and had the hubris to click the move riskily against Tyranitar on turn 1. The final detected confusion dealer was Hurricane. Now, this move was definitely the least guilty for several reasons. One, it was not used solely to deal confusion in the way Machamp opted for Dynamic Punch over the strong and close combat. It was used
that doesn't work.
Special flying stab option for its users. Most famously, the Tornadus Therian that was such a staple. 2, its 70% accuracy outside of rain, which was almost always the case after Gen 5, meant that you had to hit it in the first place, then get a 30% confusion proc, then get the 50% self-hit on the opponent. Hurricane was so famously unreliable, some players
used see how fast this is.
And when Bleak Wind Storm came around, the switch to that was instantaneous. And yet Hurricane was the standard, and so it had its fair share of goofy moments. The upside was that since the odds weren't exactly great, one wasn't usually gunning for confusion, with exceptions being repeated Hurricanes against something not instantly threatening like the Fable. It was more the accidental confusions that were annoying about Hurricane. You pivoted your Choice Band Tyranitar into a Hurricane.
Yeah, this is fucking terrible, dude.
Confused you, and now the Torrent escapes unscathed. The accuracy woes added to the general chaos, fitting for the status named Confusion. Before we move on to our final guest of Dishonor, we have some dishonorable mentions. First, Toxic, Will-O-Wisp, and Leech Seed.
Oh yeah, Toxic is awful too. Put you on a timer permanently.
Buff from 75 to 85 in Gen 6, but they are very impactful. So on the occasion they do miss, it feels particularly biting.
How do you make a dispenser? Hang on.
Against a Tyranitar, it probably doesn't really matter. But missing a Leech Seed against it is far more.
Bow and a redstone latch, you say?
That freeze. These are low percentage side effects of moves used as offensive weapons, but they are also spammed repeatedly in hopes of catching that game-breaking 10%. Not just
Let me cook here for a sec, hang on.
More recent times, Karam spammed
I have an idea.
out of freeze drive to ruin its effect. We have freeze claws for a reason. In a similar vein, sleep moves. We don't have them as RNG in the same way as we do these others, but sleep duration is RNG.
Just give me a second.
The power of free turns, a long sleep can be utterly devastating.
Bear with me here, or should I say wolf with me here. Anyways.
Minimize has been spammed in many forms. Chansey combined cheese with abusing the timer, while nowadays Alolan Muck spams Minimize alongside Moody Spirit.
Nope, that won't work.
Will gift Alolan Muck
I could theoretically wire it above this, like if I really wanted to, but like, dude, that's not worth it. I'm not wasting the stone bricks, like, let's be honest.
Many a game has been saved to the great chagrin of the victim by a crucial flinch from a choice band Aerodactyl or
theoretically I could do that, but honestly, I don't really think that's a good idea. Are there any blocks that are easy to get? I guess I could use Soul Sand maybe, but that's not a very good option, unfortunately.
Sent to Ubers for its flinch-happy antics. No such luck with Jirachi. Since Pokemon Platinum, it has been wielding its Steel Stab that has nary a case for your Steel Resist. Even Quadruple Resist will get worn down without leftovers, for Jirachi will simply spam the move more repeatedly, in defiance of its 60% success rate. Hypnosis always seems to miss, yet Jirachi always seems to flinch. Protests and demands for its removal have been around for a decade and a half at this point, especially with how nasty it gets when compounded with the paralysis Jirachi so effortlessly doles out itself.
Wait, what's number one? Is it flinch? Oh, Ironhead Jirachi. Oh, God.
One of the most famously reviled Pokemon of all time. At least Shaman Sky got sent to Ubers for its flinch-happy antics. No such luck with Jirachi.
Damn, dude.
Platinum, it has been wielding its Steel Stab that
a tuning fork. Hilarious. They do not want you being able to build mob farms easily in this. I swear to God, they must have some kind of vendetta against the player easily getting mob drops.
Always seems to miss, yet Jirachi always seems to flinch. Protests and demands for its removal have been around for a decade and a half at this point, especially with how nasty it gets when compounded with the paralysis Jirachi so effortlessly doles out itself, while also ensuring the opponent is slower as required for the flinch. Jirachi's Ironhead is the ultimate example of an RNG playstyle that bypasses all else. Forget any other considerations, other moves you might make. Even if they're a safer place to make, the odds are actually in your favor on each turn, so you can go ahead and Ironhead your way to success. Togekiss isn't the same. Sure, it can have some nasty stuff happen on occasion, but its typing leaves it much less consistent than Jirachi's incredible Steel Psychic combo. You don't have to think much with Jirachi. Yeah, you can do the
Steel Psychic used to be the best defensive combination in the game back in the earlier gens. Well, until the Fey type was introduced. Until the Fey Nation attacked.
It's not enough. Jirachi so regularly chains together so many flinches that you need to be far sturdier against it. Combining Steel Resist with longevity.
Blaziken is really your best bet, and that's assuming you don't get flinched. If you get flinched, you're screwed.
Countering it as often a form of praying to the Pokegod that wouldn't just mow through your answer.
Another trick is to protect on it, and then bring in a quad resist like fucking a water steel type like Empoleon. And that should be enough to force out Jirachi since you can Thunderbolt it to death. Or can it Thunderbolt? No, I guess it would just Hydro Pump. Never mind, I'm stupid.
Let us know what you think of our choices. Agree, disagree, whatever.
No, Ironhead Jirachi I 100% agree with. Is probably the worst bit of RNG you will ever experience in competitive singles. Hell, even in doubles, it's still a pain in the ass if you're unlucky enough to come across it on some niche ass team that you get at a fucking that you have to fight at a regionals or something. Okay, we've got one more level. We'll just do it one level at a time. Realistically, though, I am gonna need that. Wood, though.
Alex Sable, Anthony Belval, Renault, Bingleton, Daniel Isby.
Nice. Wait, what the fuck?
Glitcherton, Hal, Nurse Jake.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Lord of the Rabbit, Pretzel SP, Ray, Skylaria, Sorzik Proxy, Shiwei Niji, Stoneface Colin, and Quetzalcoatl Northropi for their major support of our videos. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.
The hell did I miss one? The I just want to finish that level, please.
Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. We're getting festive by stepping into the frigid December air and recalling one of our earliest videos, embarking on a quest to find the single best Ice-type Pokemon in competitive history. But what do we mean by best? Well, just as
Xianpao's definitely a candidate. Weavile too.
Unearthing the deep-seated mystery of which Pokemon both strikes the best mix of all-time competitive success, i.e., high tier placement and strong viability in said tiers, and is representative of the best strengths of the Ice type as a whole. So, in order to do that, we first have to delve into the history of Ice.
The Ice Kitty is going to be number one. Has to be.
Ice-type is well known for being one of the worst defensive types in the game, resisting
yeah, but Ice-type has one thing going for it. It hits everything, basically everything neutrally. The only things it doesn't hit are water and I think steel? I think those are the only two that it does not hit. Oh, and also ice, obviously, but whatever.
Didn't stop Hidden Power Ice from being downright mandatory coverage for most electrics throughout history as well. As for the Ice types themselves, though, they have been the offensive behemoths that fully dive into the advantages of such an excellent stab, thrashing many of the most important types in the game: flying, ground, grass, and dragon, while neutral targets have much to fear as well, given not just the strong base power of stab ice moves on both sides of the physical.
Oh yeah, Galarian Darmanitan is also another one.
But also the fact that Game Freak, much to their credit, recognized the Ice type's inherent tendency towards offense and thus gifted many such Pokemon with huge offensive base stats that let them put the pressure even on resist in many cases.
No, dude, I feel like Darmanitan might actually get it, maybe.
First generation, where Blizzard was 90% accurate. We shudder to think of a game where it maintained that accuracy in Gen 2 and beyond. Haha, get it, shudder, because it's cold? The move was commonly wielded by Starmie, of course, but Ice types unleashed it both as an offensive weapon and...
Oh yeah, so many fucking Pokemon use Bolt Beam coverage in Gen 1. Not a lot of them get it though, but you'll see it pretty much one Pokemon on every single team. At minimum, one Pokemon that has it. Probably Starmie, but you never know.
This unstatus Pokemon switching into it would be immediately threatened by another debilitating status in Freeze. There were some situations where it'd get the 1-2 sleep Freeze Punch, and in doing so, practically just win the game for you very early on. As far as sheer power went though, Articuno of all things was the king. It would lose its incredible base 125 special attack upon Gen 2 splitting up Gen 1 special stat, but back then, its Blizzard was tied with Moltres' Fire Blast as the single strongest special move in the game, famously outdoing even the mighty Mewtwo Psychic, and as a result,
what the hell?
One of the most devastating attacks in the tier, much like the renowned Ice Spam of more modern generations. Gen 1 also saw the defensive use of Ice type, a far rarer sight. It's not that surprising, considering there were no fighting moves, very rarely any fire moves, and skill didn't exist. And there was certainly no stealth rush. Basically, most of the things
Ew, it's producing. Oh my god. Hang on.
Meanwhile, the Ice Resist was crucial precisely because going for the freeze was an incredibly powerful strategy in the bulk-focused Gen 1, and Ice types were the only way around it, so they provided a crucial pivot into Ice Beam spamming Chansey, for example.
I'll replace this a little later.
Like Lapras and especially Cloyster.
We'll replace all of this with wood actually at some point.
They were more so leveraging their neutrality to the moves wielded by Snorlax and Toro in order for their bulk to work out.
Okay, I don't need to fucking put a cap over this. That's unnecessary. I just need access to this goofy chest. What the fuck? No fucking way, dude.
Utility. That wasn't by virtue of its ice typing, but it was incredibly valuable for its ability to resist
boots?
as well as
oh, I see. It's already producing, dude. Holy shit. I knew it would. I knew full fucking well. Oh. Are you shitting me, bro?
And it only get worse in this regard with each subsequent generation.
Fair enough, I suppose.
Blocking freeze from opposing things. It was a bit late to the metagame development.
Damn it. I can't do it. What the hell?
Within the player base.
Oh yeah, like I said, this actually does protect me. They can't get me, dude, no way! This actually does protect me from fucking squids super duper nicely.
Was of course one of the most defining Pokemon in Gen 2 OU, combining spikes, Snorlax checking, and a highly efficient explosion.
It is so nice not having to worry about these motherfuckers. That's right, come on, just a little bit closer, little boy.
Neither its quadruple ice resistance nor its freeze immunity were at all useful, considering it didn't take on the metagame's foremost ice spammers at all. It wasn't just destroyed by the...
Why did I drop? Oh yeah, I never switched fucking my button back. God damn it. Okay, hold up, I'm changing this back. Before I leave, I have to change this back, dude, or I'm gonna fucking lose it. Literally, because I'm probably gonna end up dropping my items out or something. Did I drop my fish? Did I pick up the mysterious client? Okay, good, I did. That's all I really wanted. That's the only thing I actually, like, you know, like, need. You little bastard! Fuck off! Good God, dude. Why? Why did he attack me? I wasn't even in the water. Get the fuck out of here, you little bastards. You're not gonna stop me, I'm sorry. You had your chance, but you all fucking failed. And now you have to live with your the consequences of your fucking actions, you motherfuckers. Yeah, I might be being a little aggressive, but I have a good reason to be aggressive. I have a lot to lose in this world. Now, I don't have a lot of drops or anything, but I have the potential. The potential is the reason why I have so much to lose. As they say, oftentimes in this world, potential is the thing that goes to waste, not the materialistic possessions that they have. A person's potential is often wasted on, what's the right word? On bullshit. How about that? It's wasted on bullshit. They had an opportunity to do great things, but they fucking blew it. They blew it worse than a fucking stripper. And I don't mean blow it as in like life choices, I mean literally they fucking blew it, dude. No, I'm gonna shut up, that was terrible. Maybe not the best analogy, but I guess it kinda makes sense. Kinda. I need to talk about something. I have hardly any content in any of my videos. I'm bland as fuck half the time, dude. Like, what am I supposed to do? I mean, hey, at least I'm not like... At least I'm not fucking, like, not saying anything. I mean, Jesus, dude. At least I have personality. You know, it's small, but I'll give it a chance, like that kind of thing. It has personality. Yeah, well, so does my fucking, yeah, well, so does my gamepad that I play fucking K-Shoot Mania with, but you don't see me mentioning any of that fucking shit, dude. Uh-oh. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough.
But while far from impossible, it got increasingly difficult to justify across the generation. Thus, the utility you'd most commonly get from
we might have a problem, Cypher.
Great attack stats of major threats, especially valuable in the Dragon era of Gens 4 and 5.
Yeah, maybe we might have a slight issue. I may not have enough rocks to do this. Okay, this will at least tell me how many rocks I need to do it. Hell, even if I don't have enough, it's not the end of the world. Okay, never mind. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating. So it takes about 4-ish stacks to do one layer. I kind of like Cobblestone more. It just has a better fit to it, you know? So it takes a little over a stack and a half. Wait, it takes... Oh, wait, it takes, like... Yeah, it takes almost 2 stacks to do one layer. Oh, wait, no. It takes a little under a stack and a half. I think it takes a stack and... It takes a... What? 64? 70. It takes 80. That's not bad. That's pretty reasonable, I would say. Ah, yes, my block of shit. So as long as it's not wood, they should spawn on it. Surely the devs didn't fucking nerf this block so mobs don't spawn on it. I trust that they do, though. If they spawn on normal dirt, they'll probably spawn on packed dirt.
Furthermore, the addition of heavy-duty boots is an incredible buff to all ice types. Even the famously fragile Weavile is deceptively decent at taking hits when unbothered by the sneaky pebble. It almost recalls the surprising bulk of even fairer offensive Pokemon like Gengar in the max stat environment of Gen 2. Then Gen 9 really upped the ante. First Iron Bundle meant everyone had their holidays ruined by the ghost of Delibird Pass.
Dude, fuck Iron Bundle, that motherfucker.
Defenses, much like Sandstorm has long boosted rock types in special defense, which led to an already monstrous Pokemon in Baxcalibur going truly over the top as a
No, dude, Baxcalibur was like a fucking... It was like Kyurem, dude, but like I don't know, it felt worse, I don't know. I mean, I've played during the time that it was in OU, and boy was it busted. Like, no. To all the people that didn't play with it, count yourself lucky. You either used it, or you you lose it. You lose against it.
What we're looking for among these contenders is a combination of excellence as a high tier as possible, and longevity in the.
He should have had BKC like fucking guest star in this episode. God damn it.
Especially the latter, was not
dude, it's because I was fucking starving, bro. Dude, I swear to God, hunger fucking kills. Like, there's no shot. Yeah, I'm not going back down there for that. Fuck off.
Both of which rent OU asunder and continue, especially Chin Pao, to have a niche in today's Uber. Speaking of Weavile, ever since its buff in Gen 6, it has been a force, peaking in Gen 8 where, assisted not just by boost, but a Megazone and Z-Crystal-less game that detested taking its knockoff, and even a tier it was so much faster than everyone else that it could run an adamant nature for max power, resulting in it finding itself the subject of discussions pertaining to its potential brokenness. It is quite a recognizable pick for this role given its excellence in Gen 6 and 8 of OU, as well as its success in the tier of Gen 7 and 9, while beating the lights out of UU in both, to the point of being banned in Gen 7, which means it's got an argument for the longevity. However, the peaks just aren't high enough. In a similar vein, Mamoswine, though it is an incredibly frightening bruiser with a perpetual OU niche among its never lower than UU placements, especially as its anti-sand and thus
oh yeah, Mamoswine never did fall beneath UU in this gen, did it? That's pretty impressive actually, for it to be consistently UU for basically its entire life, except for maybe its like debut generation and the generations and the 2 generations after. That's pretty good.
It was also quite decent in Gen 5, 6, and 7 of Uber, with general viability since Gen 1, including multiple gens of OU. There's an argument to its longevity, but it's also spent a lot of time in the lower tier, so it doesn't quite reach the 8.
We will find out if this works tonight, and if it doesn't, we'll just replace the block. Not much I can really do about it, sadly.
Dominated by Calyrex Shadow. In Gen 9, however, Calyrex Shadow got banned, and Calyrex Ice is thriving, establishing itself as a top threat. However, it just doesn't have the longevity. The Ice types with the most Uber's appearances are, well, one is Arceus, but Ice Arceus is just about never seen, because it's niche and even its best
nice.
Gen,
yeah.
it doesn't have the
yeah, I can just jump down, it's fine.
The other Pokemon is Kyurem White. Now, this one seems like it has to be it, right?
I can go back over there for that rock, though. I don't mind. I want it back. It's my rock.
But the truth of the matter is that
you rock, Hycalia. Man, thanks, Hycalia. I didn't know that. Man, fucking this shit, dude. First, I thought I saw an animal over there. I'm like, what the fuck? I thought I killed them all. I mean, I killed all the fish like 50 jillion times over, but no, whatever, I guess. Yeah, all of the things fucking died. A big surprise.
That would really hit the spot. It'd be the most iconic from its longevity pairing. Excellent. Not Kyurem White, but what about Kyurem, which was banned from OU in Gen 8 and was almost.
Oh boy, my favorite.
Not quite. It had a strong OU niche in Gens 5 through 7 while beating up the lower tier something fierce, but it doesn't
where's my rock?
Itself. But
there it is. Found ya.
It started out almost in disgrace, as it was a box art legendary whose strangely sparse move pool relative to its skill set.
Oh yeah, Kyurem Black was a laughing stock in Gen 5. It was terrible. I felt so bad for it.
3 generations among the fiercest threats in OU, and then in Gen 8, it finally got some key moves that had been missing and instantly ascended, pummeling OU en route to a ban with a slight niche in Uber. Then in Gen 9, some more buffs had allowed it to finally reach its
body press
form, resulting in its role as one of the metagame's most dangerous sweepers. Folks, we have found our selection for the greatest ice type in competitive history. Let's see why.
Wait, they gave it Scale Shot? What the fuck?
Kyurem Black, even being suspected when it was in Gen 5, was met by many with outrage. Part of the fun. Nobody could argue that KB would be broken in such a brutally offensive metagame, but this was also a tier still populated by some of the most insanely broken Pokemon to scale. Even Black and White Skyscraper standards allowed in an OU metagame Genesect, Tornadus Therian, and Landorus Incarnate. Pokemon so busted that they made the broken Deoxys defense look tame, even though DOD got banned before Lando. But you know what else was going on during that time? A small section of the player base asking for Kyurem Black to be retested for the same reason. They protested it being freed in the first place.
I will say in Gen 5, Kyurem Black's really shallow move pool really held it back from actually being OP as shit.
All this does is add to the complete.
Don't get me wrong, it's still broken as fuck, obviously. But it's not broken enough to really be considered, like, you know, ban-worthy. In OU, it's very good, though, in Gen 5. Like, there's a reason why people use it.
Nobody could really argue against Kyurem Black's place in the tier. Its many weaknesses meant it could be revenge killed quite easily. However, these revenge kills Strugglers did not want to switch into its immense power, and thus KB took up the mantle that it would maintain in OU for the next several generations. One of the hardest hitters in the game.
I could put my sleeping quarters like right here maybe, but it needs to be 26 blocks away.
Defensive utility. However, true to the essence of the ice type, this was secondary, as Kieran Black was all about ushering in the full extent of the new era.
Now then, we just have to wait and make sure that they will spawn. Hey, look at that, all my hemp is done. Nice. Well, it's not done growing, but it's all done growing to that stage that it will be finished. We just need to verify that they will indeed spawn. I'm not going to use any more packed earth until I can confirm this. I might use it for like some paths or something, but like...
it had been placed into. Owing to a complete lack of physical ice stab, its signature move, the massively powerful freeze shot, was a 2-turn effort, and not even the nifty paralysis chance was going to compensate for that. Nor was it worth it running
Oh,
power
come
for a
on.
one-time effect. If it had had physical ice stab from
Is
the
it like the
get-go,
full
even just
moon? No,
ice
it's the
punch, it
freaking
almost certainly
crescent.
never
What the
would have
hell?
happened to OU. Manaswine's Choice Band Icicle Crash is one of the
I'm
most
starting to
effective
think that they don't
moves
spawn
for
on
the
this.
single
I
sound
wouldn't be
taking
surprised,
ice
honestly.
punch
I only made enough to make
even
one
ice
layer
stab
just
would
in
have
case
been
this
fine.
happened.
Even
I didn't
Manaswine's
mention this
Icicle
before,
Crash
but I'm not
was
taking
something
any
KB would
fucking
be able to
chances
respond.
with
They got the
fucking
higher power of Dragon Claw
this
and
mod. I know for a fact that there's a good
ice
chance that the
stab
devs
from the
may have
that is
nerfed it
against
to where
the
you can't do
omnipresent
that.
Legacy and Gliscor.
I mean, there was one point where I actually tried to use wood in my first attempt at making one of these things, like a long time ago, and it didn't work, and I was like, why is it not working? And then I looked at the wiki, I'm like, oh, you can't use wood, of course, because apparently renewable resources are no good.
Sorry, Rotom Frost. KB was still a lot scarier, even though it didn't have stab on both moves the way you did. Anyway, Fusion Ball's excellent coverage was the primary reason Kieran Black would dip into mixed attacking with an emphasis on the special side, despite having a lower base special attack stat than base Kieran. The other was its terrible ability, a Mold Breaker clone that allowed its earth power to shred the levitating Rotom Wash and even Bronzong.
I'm gonna look this up real quick. I need to make fucking absolute fucking sure. I'm pretty sure they don't spawn.
Wielding the power of its iciness to the fullest. However, one time, sub 3 attacks KB.
I don't think they spawn on it.
For its lack of immediate kill power, faded away. There were other mixed KB variants too. Some dropped sub in the favor of Scizor and Ferrothorn destroying hidden power fire, often with Expert Belt as the item. You would even see the occasional Hail team letting it unleash a perfect accuracy blizzard. Meanwhile, some offensive teams enjoyed a physical choice scarf variant, which turned the tables on would-be checks like Keldeo and Terrakion and cleaned house late game. However, this lean towards an all-out physical approach will find its endpoint in KB's defining set for the generation and the pinnacle of the Dragon Spam era, Choice Band. Choice Band Kieran Black pushed the Drag Mag strategy as far as it would go, assisting its teammates, including Magnezone, and sometimes even fellow Ice-type Mamoswine, by busting through many steals through outrageous sheer power alone, making it much easier for its teammates to pick up the pieces. Even if you were facing a skill type like Jirachi, the move tended to be outrage. Now, this is more about it being a dragon and not an ice type, but rest assured, ice typing factored into this too. It still fit Ice Beam into its choice band set, giving it the unique quality of being a choice standard that threatened the one-hit kill on Landier Spirit and Gliscor. Additionally, that
hey, hang on, I have to figure this out. What the fuck?
The fighting, steel, and rock that it added was also key in limiting revenge killing options. It meant that KB was a dragon not weak to ice, so you could forget Ice Beam Starmie taking it out. In fact, KB was unique in actually taking advantage of something as scary as Life Orb Starmie as an opportunity to fire.
Well, this is awkward. I'm starting to think it does not work. Oh, I see squids down there. Hilarious.
And KB was a staple. However,
I don't think it works. I'm thinking they may have patched it to where you can't use Packed Earth. I wouldn't be surprised. That makes sense because of how easy it is to get. Yeah, that means I wasted about 20 minutes doing fucking bullshit. How nice.
Now its greatest weapon was unquestionably Ice Beam, and even though it had to contend with not just fairy types, but the weakening of Ice Beam's space power,
It's so stupid, dude.
They
They really do not want you doing that shit. Why they allow Sandstone, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that they don't, or that they don't, like... I'm surprised they never patched it. Because, like, if they patched fucking Packed Earth, which is made the exact same way, why would they have not patched fucking Sandstone?
It did this without much offensive investment, even in its much lower special attack. However, come Oras, KB leaned into its true calling as an out-and-out wall breaker, most often running 3 attacks with roots and a Life Orb attached, though it had plenty of variation, not just in the 2 attacking moves it ran alongside Ice Beam, using the likes of Iron Head, Fusion Bolt, Earth Power, and Hidden Power Fire, while also sometimes...
What? How does he even see me from this distance, dude?
Alongside a different item like Expert.
Like how?
Very types were nice and all, but Clefable was not going to take kindly to a super effective Iron Head from KB's Gargantuan.
Not a single mob has spawned on this tonight.
Was functioning almost entirely as an ice type at this point. Clefable didn't even
it doesn't work. That's what I figured. I mean, I was hoping maybe I'd be wrong about it, but at the same time, I'm honestly not very surprised. Color me unsurprised that the devs patched an easily obtainable resource to where you can't use it for mob grinders. How nice.
However, Gen 7 is where KB took its first step into its truest self. Instead of settling for
no, don't do that, Steve. Bad.
It can now run the all-out or primarily physical attacking variant, wielding the most wicked ice stab around it always wanted to.
Damn it. Now I'm gonna have to climb back up there and fucking fix it. Hey, at least I didn't waste my time and make a shitload of it. Good to know. Apparently the devs are fucking... Apparently they're neckbeards, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, funny jokes aside, I'm gonna have to fix it. Where's my dung? Where is my dung? Give. I give you food, will you give me poo-poo? Please? Good boy.
Players were so terrified and overcautious of playing around the Sub-Zero Slammer.
I hate to be like this, but
out of using Free Shock without the Z, with the 2-turn effect messing with predictions nicely, or attempts to soak the Z.
Do mobs spawn on glass, I wonder?
Ice types have been able to pull off anything like this, using a stab with such luxury. What a dream, made possible by the ever-increasing
yeah, we're gonna have to fix it. There's no other way.
Complementary electric coverage was often powered up further by Tapu Koko's electric terrain, or Tapu Bulu's grassy terrain, giving it passive recovery and giving it more opportunities to threaten the opponent, and being especially nice for offsetting recoil should KB decide to let a teammate hold the Z and instead run an old-school Life Orb set, or Tapu Fini's Misty terrain protecting it against irritating status, from Pokemon like Toxapex. It didn't really need support at all though. Such was the genuinely insane pseudo-auto KO power of its boosted Free Shock. In a way, it was the support.
How do you make Stonein better than Wolves?
To let his teammates clean up. Gen 7 KB was by far the best it had been so far, but it was still nothing compared
Smooth
to
Stone.
Generation 8. Heavy-duty boots were certainly nice, but even those wouldn't necessarily be needed, because at long last, it got reliable Ice Stab. Okay, Icicle Spear isn't what most people would call reliable, but seeing as KB had literally no other physical ice move, quizzically not even Ice Fang, this would do just fine. Even a 2-hit, aka 50 base power, Icicle Spear would do just fine off of KB's mighty attack. But that wasn't all. It also got Dragon Dance. Now, Dragon Dance KB would have been absolutely crazy even in generations where it didn't have a reliable physical ice stab, arguably to the point of not being allowed an OU at all.
Yep, I got cucked. How nice. I mean, it's a good top layer, I guess, for now, but like, it's so stupid, dude.
KB pulling off one insane sweep after another. The power of Choice Band with the flexibility to switch
what the fuck?
Coverage meant it could precisely select its move to disassemble you with, and boosting its speed, meaning your average offensive Pokemon wasn't revenge killing it anymore. It got banned very, very quickly. It didn't do great, and then the cross of Dustmane dominated.
Motherfucker.
Generally preferred Dragon That's Zekrom.
Dude, how did he even get out here?
But it still had a niche for combining these two talents.
Why did they disable Packed Earth from being used as a mob spawning platform? Like, what? That makes no sense. Why? Why would they even have to nerf that? That doesn't even make sense. If you can get sand as easily as you can get dirt for the same cost, why? It would make more sense to nerf both to where you can't use either and where you'd have to use like clay or something. I mean, it would make sense if you had to use clay, right? Because then it would like, you know, like it would like, you'd have to get the clay and actually have to like, you know, take the time to get the resources. But why? That makes no sense. Either that or my mob spawning is busted. I don't think that's the problem though, unfortunately. Part of me wants to believe that's what it is, but I know it's not. It's because they fucking nerfed it.
4 to 5 times every time. 4 times comes to 100 base power, aka Earthquake. And for physical,
we're gonna go raid that village. That's the best area that I can get wood.
But if it hits 5 times, it's hitting harder than an ice type close combat or Baxcalibur's Glaive Blade.
I've got enough food, probably.
The Dragon type Scale Shot, just as strong as Icicle Spear, also boosted by loaded dice, except it also boosts speed for each hit. You get outsped by Scarf Koraidon after 1 DD. Scale Shot's
welcome back here for the final layer.
Earned the title of best ice type even without getting these Gen 9 buffs, but we are extremely glad that it's only improved with time, and it gets to cap things off with its greatest generation yet. And that's it. Of course, we're open to other perspectives, so if you'd like to make your case for Weavile or whichever other ice, please do. Let us know if you agree, disagree, and generally your experiences with Kyurem Black. Playing against it seems daunting at first, with its box art legendary status, but its flaws are quickly apparent, so that doesn't stop the utterly pummeling effect of its power, especially as the generations go on. Most importantly though, happy holidays, and we hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always,
maybe
if you like the
automating
video
it's
and
not
want
such
to
a
enjoy
bad
the
idea
subscribe
after
to
all.
False Swipe Gamers for more weekly Pokemon content, and thank you so much for your patience, for continued support of our videos, and thank you.
Wait,
to
no,
everyone
focus,
watching as
focus.
well.
We're here to get wood. Not get fucking that. Disgusting.
And thank you so much to our platinum patrons. Thank you to Amphozenus, Alex Sable, Anthony Belval Renault, Bingleton, Daniel Isbeast.
Ooh, I see chickens. Oh my god, and I see a dog too.
Jack
What
G,
the
Lord of the
hell?
Rabbit, Kylaria, Soares and Croxid, Chiwe Miji, Stoneface Colin, Kiboflu,
What the hell?
and Quetzalcoatl Northropi for their major support of our videos.
I'll just leave these animals alone. I might need them
Poland
later for
social
other
media platform.
things,
And
I
that's all I got.
guess.
See you next time, everyone.
I didn't think there was still a pig alive over here. What the fuck? There's two? Yeah, I definitely need to leave these animals alone. They need to stay alive. I'm gonna need them for later. I mean, provided a zombie doesn't kill them before I get to them, but whatever.
True to its name, the fighting type is renowned as having many of the best offensive Pokemon in the game. However, this wasn't always the case. Originally, fighters were not only not great, but outright abysmal. How did we get to the modern day where fighters effortlessly, spectacularly crush nearly all in their path with such regularity, and have done so for longer than much of the current player base will remember? We're going to track fighters from their low.
Did I really already get all the wood?
Explaining the details.
Are you
of this
shitting
fight
me?
to
I
the
mined all of
the
it.
instant smashing machines we know
Well,
them as now. This video's long. So
Pink
the
Sheep,
intro
oh my
will be
god,
short.
that's right, I
Today
forgot
we're
about
exploring
you.
when the fighting type was
The
terrible
legend.
and how it was saved.
Is that the swamp biome?
But before we start, bundle up with this video
Okay, well,
sponsor,
I don't need that much wood. I'll just
Winter is
raid the
coming,
fucking houses,
and
I guess.
not
I don't
only do you
fucking
need
know,
this,
dude.
But you also need to stay warm. Luckily for us, MeUndies has you covered on both. MeUndies is the best choice for comfort because of their micromodal fabric, especially the ball
What's this
cap.
about
If you
undies?
ever thought you needed a special pouch for your parts to keep them separate? What
the hell?
5-star reviews as your sign that
Yeah,
this
I'm
could
gonna
be
be
your new
honest,
favorite
I didn't
boxer
expect
breed.
me to be
Some of them
going
even
after the
have a
wood
contoured
like
pouch to
this.
make you look bigger if you catch my drift. The most comfortable underwear in the world comes in a variety of prints. I really like the desert sky and totally awesome print that I have. These designs are really nice and remind me to stay cozy as I
Looks like
sleep.
dad
There's
underwear,
over
dude.
10 different styles of undies.
It's like
ranging
something
from
that
boxer
someone's
briefs
dad
to
would
jock
wear.
straps, and there are over 100 different colors and prints. Pick one that you like and you won't be disappointed.
Okay.
And of course, MeUndies is so confident that if you don't like your first pair of undies, then it's
Yes!
free of charge. Winter is coming, so get some warm clothing and go to
We're just gonna steal all of their wood, every
MeUndies.com/FSG
last
and use
drop of
promo
it.
code FSG
Knowing that
for
this village is
20%
completely
off your
leveled
first
will be
order
very
plus free
reassuring,
shipping.
too.
And thank you so much to MeUndies for sponsoring this video. The fighting type's debut was also its lowest point, and make no mistake, it plundered the most desolate depths of non-viability. It wasn't obviously terrible though. To those
Yeah,
of us
Machamp was the
accustomed to
only
fighting
semi-viable
strong,
fighting type in Gen 1
it's
RBY,
surprised it
and if you
completely
used it,
demolishes
you
tier
probably
systems.
losed
Gen
it
1
within
was
the
not
first
seen that
fucking,
differently in this regard.
like,
In fact,
5
everyone
minutes
who
of the
gets
fucking
into
match,
Gen 1 at
dude.
one point or another has a moment where
Like,
they
I'm
get
sorry,
their
there's just
use
no
of ice
way.
type, so they can super
It was
effectively
so
counter the
unviable,
dominant normal
dude.
skill of
I
Power
wouldn't say it was
Skull and
garbage,
Champ that
but
otherwise
it
lacked
wasn't
use.
good.
Yes, psychics are also dominant here, but surely the rewards are worthwhile. After all, other psychics also have to contend with psychics. Gengar and Victory Bell are psychic weak and are useful Pokemon. Plus, it's not just
Yeah, but at least Gengar is
The
fast.
theoretical
Machamp is slow as
anti-metagame
fuck,
forced
dude.
in question
Like, it
is
can't do
none
anything.
other
It
than
dies
Machamp.
every single time it tries to go on.
Renowned
Alakazam just
destroyer
outspeeds it and
generation.
one-shots
How
it.
could it ever have been bad? It wasn't only the strongest fighter by far, but also tied with Kingler and OU mainstay Rhydon for the highest attack stat in the game of anything not named Dragonite, meaning it also had the benefit.
Yeah,
of
but at
building
least
a
Dragonite,
particularly
despite its
impressive
quad
type,
weakness
and
to
unlike
ice,
Dragonite and
still
Kingler,
did something
Machamp,
other
like
than
Rhydon,
die on the
had
first
actual
turn.
useful physical stats
Is it
too.
almost
Speaking of
nighttime? Are you
Rhydon,
shitting
that was
me?
another OU staple Machamp's fighting stats struck super effectively. Plus, its HP and defense made it decently tanky on the physical side, and while it was far from fast, it also had the same speed stat as the meta-defining Exeggutor, so that wouldn't be a problem, especially with how much of Gen 1 already revolved around paralysis. With all this in mind, Machamp seemed primed for, if not a revolutionary...
I don't want the stairs, though. The stairs are unnecessary.
Everyone who has this idea to try Machamp immediately congratulates themselves on it. It just seems so perfect, and then wonders why nobody else has used it. I must just be a particularly special type of Pokemon master, they think to themselves. However, when they actually try out Machamp, they immediately realize there is a very good reason why Machamp's complete lack of usage in serious Gen 1 play. It is terrible. They then realize that they are far from the first person to have gone through this cycle. Indeed, Machamp has been tried by enterprising Gen 1ers for decades, and each and every time, the results came back equally dismally. Let's start with the stab move it wants to use to dish out its fighting type pain, Submission. It clocks in at a perfectly solid 80 base power. That's almost as much as Body Slam's 85, and since it's coming off of a much higher attack stat, it's going to be out-damaging the main tool used by Snorlax and Tauros. So power-wise, all is well. Where the problem begins is the recoil incurred with each hit.
Oh yeah, it dishes recoil, that's right. Why would they give it as its only stab move as a recoil move?
Nor do leftovers
What?
to offset the issue. Instead, you just make it easier to be revenge killed. That's not all either. Submission's accuracy isn't just imperfect, it's 80%.
80%? Dude, I didn't know it was that bad in Gen 1. Wow.
Hydro Pump and Stone Edge in later generations. So you're often missing, and when you're not missing, you're damaging yourself.
When you're not missing, you're hissing with anger because you died.
It can't switch into anything safely. It has to enter in against resting Snorlax or Chansey using soft boils.
Yeah, Snorlax, dude, it doesn't even beat Snorlax, bro. It just dies to it.
It doesn't appreciate being even easier to pick off for the Tauros it's supposed to be threatening. It definitely can't afford to take paralysis either. Unlike Exeggutor, whose Psychic and Explosion are always reliable, and whose typing and bulk are much better for taking hits, but Champ's already...
I hate to be greedy, but I don't have a choice. I'm gonna have to take the stairs. I'm not gonna try to differentiate between which one's which.
Easier to take advantage of when it's not outrunning Snorlax.
Why is this made of wood?
Not even getting into the Psychic issue. Machamp's Body Slam, Earthquake, and Hyper Beam are quite decent, but it needs to be more than decent given how it has a limited window of opportunity.
At quarter day, we need to sprint back immediately. It shouldn't be Gloom Knight, because the fucking moon was on the left side, not the right side. If it was the right side, I'd be gone by now, probably. I wouldn't be procrastinating like this.
Necessarily a deal breaker in Gen 1, but you better be bringing something seriously game-breaking to the table to justify it. Think Gengar's Hypnosis, Normal Immunity, and Fast Explosion.
Okay, that house has been leveled.
An arguably ban-worthy wrap, but Machamp has no such bars it can drop. Just the ability to slug it out with raw power.
Nice, I did the thing. I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to trash all of the houses, sadly. I'll just trash these other ones here real quick.
And maxes out at 60% against Snorlax. These are impressive figures in and of themselves, but not when taken in consideration with Machamp's many damning flaws. Some players have tried to get around this issue with Low Kick, which has a flat 50 base power in Gen 1, but also has a 30% flinch rate, which means it
has a flinch rate?
way past slower targets, especially in conjunction with paralysis. But this is spectacularly unreliable, and if you thought Submission's power was disappointing, just wait until you see Low Kick that isn't even a guaranteed 3-hit KO against Snorlax and fails to 2-hit KO Tauros. That is the flaw of the fighting type in Gen 1.
Yeah, they just didn't have any decent stab. If Dynamic Punch existed, maybe it might see more usage, but let's be real, even with that, I don't personally think it would save them. They'd still be borderline unviable garbage.
It has the same issue in UU and even NU. The other fighters, Primate, Hitmonlee, and Hitmonchan, are even worse.
This had better fucking be enough water, I swear to Christ, dude. I'm gonna be pissed if it's not.
Even though its stats aren't the most amazing. And you know why that
Hopefully I never have to come back to this village for this purpose ever fucking again.
At all, since submission is an option, but one you would rather avoid if you can help it, given its many flaws.
Oh, I don't have my armor on. Never mind.
In fact, it would be much better if it wasn't a fighting type and was able to rid itself of its...
If it was like a normal fighting type, that would be different. It would be very OP then, because it would have like stab body slam.
As well as being able to dish out sleep with hypnosis. These are game-breaking moves. Its best fighting move is actually counter, and if we're going that route, then the best fighting type in Gen 1 is actually Chansey, which wields an absolutely wicked counter. That's how you can look at fighters in Gen 1. The best fighter is a water type that wishes its fighting type wouldn't drag it down, and the best use of a fighting move is on a normal Pokemon with a low...
Okay, go. We need to go back now.
fighters improved leaps and
Ah,
bounds in Gen 2,
shit.
but this wasn't
Take the
saying much
valley.
in the grand scheme of things, given how bottom of the barrel they were before. Still, they were, at the very least, not complete junk anymore. The reigning fighter from Gen 1, Poliwrath, improved in the sense that even though it lost Amnesia's ability to boost special attack, it was still too much for NU and got banned. Though again, its fighting typing played a relatively minimal role here, as it mainly ran Restock sets, whose fighting moves was, Tide for Tide.
Well, hopefully
Another
nothing
fighting
kills
move that
those
would
poor
become most
animals,
famous
because
for
I
being given
kinda
by
need them.
Stanley Bliss.
Ow, god
Poliwrath's
damn
fighting
it.
stat upgrade over submission was the famously unreliable Dynamic Punch, another move notably used by non-fighting types for its confusion potential in Gen 2. Poliwrath itself would only use the move when wielded by Student Wood Gym Leader Chuck.
Why?
I
I love how every time I don't need to be starving to death, I'm starving to death, and I fucking can't get back or get out of that area fast enough.
Meanwhile, the Hitmon, now joined by Hitmontop, now had much better fighting stats, foregoing submission in favor of high jump kick, coming in at 85 base power and 90 accuracy. It did have recoil, but only if the move failed via missing, protect, hitting a ghost, or that fainted upon switching in. And its recoil was a paltry 1/8 of what it would have dealt.
How did he do a heart?
Fighting buff in the form of stab cross chop, which was just as strong as
Fuck
Dynamic
outta
Punch,
here.
but with 80% accuracy instead of 50%. Not that this accuracy isn't frustrating, but it's much more palatable when it's not dealing recoil.
I'll tell you what's
hit
frustrating.
submission bit.
Fucking
And it's
fucking
much stronger
skeleton
submission
bow
too.
accuracy,
Additionally,
dude.
it didn't have
They must have
dynamic
given them
punch
fucking
fusion,
aimbot in this,
but
dude.
it
They
did
had
have
to have.
the
There's no
potentially
fucking way.
devastating high critical hit rate. All these fighters also enjoyed the massive boost to their move pools that was hidden power, which at the time was not an all special move as it would become in Gen 4 onward, but physical or special based on the type chart at the time. This allowed them to run HP Bug to super effectively smack Psychics. If Ghosts were concerned, they could go with HP Ghost. So Bug was preferable if you could help it because it lowered your IVs, which were then called DBs. In this vein, the addition of Pursuit was also a huge boon to fighters, being able to effectively trap these counters to their stab, which allowed the fighters themselves to run more generally threatening movesets. Finally, fighters loved
I
the
got,
addition
how
of
much
new
wood? I got
physical
45.
boosters
God
to
damn, dude.
Speed
That's a
draw wasn't
lot.
great, but whose boost to attack and defense was invaluable in letting them actually muscle through targets with their fighting stats. Another major fighting type addition was Heracross, but it wasn't much of a fighting type insofar as its most reliable fighting move was, once again, Seismic Toss. Its other fighting stat was the tremendously unreliable Reversal, and thus Heracross's offensive output was largely defined by its monstrously powerful bug stab, Mega Horn. Its fighting typing was mostly nice in that it made it neutral to rock.
Oh, I forgot you can't do
Too
that.
much here. Heracross was a good OU Pokemon for its defensive utility first and foremost, standing in the way of threats like Nidoking, Marowak, and Machamp. Yes, Machamp was the pinnacle of Gen 2's fighting threat, the first instance of its renown for OU destruction. Take all of these fighting buffs and apply them to Machamp. Cross-chop as stab, it can now pose a serious offensive threat, especially since Psychics had generally taken a hit, thanks to the dark and skill types that Machamp also handily crushed. Indeed, their great prominence across the generations is one of the great strengths of the fighting type. Heals are especially popular, often being stacked on teams, and dark types are synonymous with the most popular Pokemon across the gens, Tyranitar, who is also, of course, a pursuiter that supports the fighter so well. Even going back to Gen 2, removing Exeggutor means Machamp doesn't need to run HP Bug, for example. Plus, even the fighting neutral steals, particularly Skarmory but also Fortress, do not take too kindly to neutral fighting stats, given their power, in broader terms anyway. In Gen 2, it's not quite so easy
hang on.
though. Of course, the biggest note about Gen 2 Machamp
Gotta do
is
this
that its
first. I'm gonna
cross-chop
load
is
all
by
these
far
up.
the strongest non-explosion
Maybe
move
a little
against King
overkill.
Snorlax. Machamp's lack of normal resist or significant physical bulk means it can't actually switch into Snorlax though, even with the maxed out EV system. However, being able to so singularly threaten the otherwise difficult to scratch Snorlax is
Damn,
such a
dude.
unique, important role that it means Machamp will always be able to threaten, especially considering how many fighting weaks Lax is often paired with. In addition to the aforementioned Dark and Steel types, there's also Cloyster. The maxed out EV system also means that Skarmory, at higher base speed, is faster than Machamp, which can be troublesome for its faster Drill Pecks, especially since even a boost to Machamp isn't exactly threatening to drop it, and since Skarm can curse first and match Machamp's boost to neutralize the effect. However, with paralysis support from common teammates like Stun Spore Exeggutor and Body Slam Snorlax,
Gonna
Machamp
make
can overcome
sure I
this
got
issue.
all of
Sometimes
it.
it even likes Fire Blast to threaten Skarmory without having to commit a turn to boosting, as well as immediately threaten the one-hit KO on Fortress, preventing
Okay,
rapid spin from
we're
the beautiful
good.
spikes that Machamp enjoys so much for the extra chip damage on non-flying types. Indeed, as strong as Machamp is now, it still needs support. Things like spikes and toxic inflictions to poison the other
Thank goodness.
are quite standard to be
Nice.
fair.
Wait.
Paralysis are more specific, though hardly going out of one's way.
Beautiful, and I used some of my
Support,
coal.
but careful play
Load
as
all
well
of
to
coal
actually
and
get the
wood
most
and
out
all
of
my
its
stairs.
destructive
I don't need the
potential.
stairs. The
But
stairs
Ken
are
also
basically
needs a
useless to
skilled
me at the
trainer to
moment.
get it on the field safely, something it struggles with. Yes, it has received a nice new special defense stat in Gen 2, but it still doesn't have much in the way of safe switching.
Now we get to go out
Due
onto
to
the
a lack
open
of
water.
resources,
Wait, are they all done?
its favorite entry point is
No
Tyranitar,
way.
and even that isn't exactly Scott
Okay,
free.
no, they're not
Earthquake
all
with
done.
spikes up will sting quite a bit, especially since Machamp, for all its power, is far from guaranteed to immediately.
I think we've only got like 3 more left of it need to be like done.
In general tends to exacerbate this quite a bit, even against light hits like Tyranitar's Crush or Rock Slide, and this wrench thrown in survivability gives it the tendency to get pivoted around by Zapdos, making paralysis support even more desirable. Trainers also have to exert particular caution around Cross Chop, whose 8 PP can run out quite quickly in GSC's Wars of Attrition. They really have to use the threat of them early on to make sure when they need to land those hits that really
Yeah, we
count,
can just
they
go
have
straight.
enough left to
Fuck 'em.
actually do so. They also
I don't
need
want to have to
balance
make
the
this thing
damage
turn, so we'll just go
to make sure
straight.
their eyes aren't bigger than their stomach. Otherwise, they might think Machamp hits harder than its impressive attacking profile would suggest. For instance, despite hitting super effectively, a +1 cross shot will never one-hit KO a full health Cloyster.
Ah,
The
shit, we're
progression
gonna
of
have to
fighters
move
in Gen
these.
2 is thus that they now actually have stabs for their impressive attack stats to use, as
Wait,
well as
maybe we
auxiliary
won't.
tools to help get around anti-fighting tactics. However, fighters
No, we
still
won't. Oh my god, holy
need
shit, I'm
to
so happy we don't have to
support
move
to
them.
make sure their hits land with the precision required for the impact they would like. Gen 3 is where fighting began developing its reputation as an offensive powerhouse typing. It was now more than just Machamp, as it had been in Gen 2, since Heracross didn't really count as a fighter back then. However, for a long time, fighters were overlooked in OU because they were just so useless defensively, and even in the
I also can't get launched into water now.
defensive value was still important for each team slot, since even the hardest hitters had natural good checks. They weren't so destructive where you could easily justify their lack of contribution to a team's defensive integrity. Despite their power, they weren't so automatic in dropping everything.
I'll have to go get
They
a
weren't
fucking
very
thing of wooden
fast.
stairs,
Sure,
though.
they boasted the ability to destroy Tier King Tyranitar, but Tyranitar's stand ensured that these big guns were on a fast timing timer.
See, look at that.
Its crew would exploit to the fullest. Even if you did manage to get the slugger of yours onto the field safely against Tyranitar, Quissy, Snorlax, or Regice, not the easiest task for that matter, then you'd likely get played around by some combination of OU Titans, such as Gengar, Salamence, Zapdos, Celebi, Jirachi, Metagross, Claydol, Dugtrio, Aerodactyl, and of course not just Sans, but its good friend.
What the hell?
Over
Oh, for
time, though,
God's sake,
fighters
it's a
became
dumb
more
fucking
appreciated
giant
for their
slime.
ability to
Really?
reliably crush common defensive cores, making them strong anti-metagame choices. But time
There.
Zapdos functioning like a U-turn Pokemon
the hell?
in later generation became the quick and easy
Is it not
solution
doing
to get
it?
just about every big hitter on the field, and fighters partnered with it beautifully,
Hang on.
given how completely they destroy its slow, especially defensive answers. Powerful fighting stat is unique in the enormous damage it threatens against them. As
Oh,
in
there's a
addition to
slime
threatening Blitzcrank
in
and
the
Tyranitar
water.
notably, the fighters were appreciated for packing
Why were their
strength
bones
and
stuck
wasn't
in the
resisted by
side,
their
though? What the
eternal
fuck?
partners, Skarmory and Swampert. Plenty of pokes to threaten Blitz and Tar, but to do so without being stopped by Skarmory and Pert was incredible. They didn't automatically
kinda wanna
destroy
replace
them,
this
of
with
course,
wood,
but
though.
you couldn't exactly rely on them to stomach stab focus punches. Basically, they were physical attackers that weren't stopped by the tier's most common physical wall. This extended to bulky Flygon and other waters like Milotic and
Oh,
Suicune.
what are you gonna do
Additionally,
now,
though
big
the tier was
boy?
not short on fighting resist, these fighting resists were not necessarily sufficient to
Motherfucker.
stop the
Get
fighters
outta
themselves.
here.
You wouldn't dream of countering Heracross with
What
Claydol,
the
for
fuck?
example. At best, you'd pivot around it while switch stalling for stand damage. The added power of coverage meant that
You know what, I'm not gonna
fighters
ask any
that role
questions, I'm
become
just
the
gonna
weapon
go.
of the core. Neutral targets weren't safe
Not
with
sure why
exceptions
the
against
items were
out-and-out
stuck
focusing
there, but
bulky
whatever, I
Pokemon.
guess.
Defensive Metagross and resets weren't necessarily
Not gonna
safe
question
either,
it.
whether for coverage or sheer power. It was mostly the former in the bulkier advance, where the fighting resists were generally on the tankier side. Even offensively minded ones like Gyarados thanks to Intimidate. But there were some instances of crazy power where even the resist of a Zapdos wasn't necessarily
Dude, water is so annoying.
being dished out by Medicham, Machamp, or Heracross. This crazy power stemmed from the slew of new additions. Yes, new fighting.
I hate to do this, but I don't have a choice.
Medicham and Blaziken, but they were frightening to deal with precisely because they could unleash this massive new damage. Toy Slam was not very specific, but it was a superb tool for almost every physical attacker. And when combined with the aforementioned Focus Punch, one of the strongest moves in the entire game that fighters uniquely receive stab on, it bombarded opponents with truly absurd damage. Machamp and Heracross could potentially one-hit KO Skarmory with it, while Medicham always did, and additionally could potentially also one-hit KO offensive Zapdos with it through the resist. Not everything had to be so extreme either. Both Focus Punch's potential to fail and Choice Band's move lock, of course, brought with them great risk that fighters could choose to eschew in favor of less immediately explosive but more reliable options.
This is taking more wood than I initially thought possible. Yeah, I guess you could say I'm in the thick of it, huh? You know what, I'm just gonna shut up. I think that's as far as I go with that joke. I'm not going underneath, fuck that.
What if you wanted to boost without Choice Band though?
I will go in there just for the sake of being fancy.
Even assisted in making the fighters more difficult to revenge kill for Pokemon like Dugtrio.
Hold up.
Heracross and Breloom could even go further with Swords Dance. Blaziken had
Get
it too.
out of here! Good God! Dude.
Had unique utility. It wasn't just about raw damage.
They're so annoying, dude. I swear to God. Are you all done? Please be done. I'm so sick and tired of dealing with you. I really am in the thick of it, dude.
Its main claim to fame was its vicious stab Mega Horde, newly backed by Rock Slide.
This is excessive, but hear me out.
Any offensive fighting type. This is not to say that Heracross didn't regularly unleash brutal fighting type pain though. It was just so good at it specifically because its ferocious bug stab ensured it had a much easier time preventing Celebi, Play-Doh, or Starmie from checking it than the other fighters, which generally had to rely on hidden power, or in Medichamp's case, Shadow Ball, which were both far less spammable and less destructive against these targets. We already mentioned Heracross's Choice Band Focus Punch as a particularly devastating attack, but it didn't need the Choice Band for it to sting, and its Brick was quite fierce, especially with Swords Dance. During the era where it was common for Skarmory to run Spikes, Whirlwind Protect, and Toxic, aka no Drill Peck in sight, Heracross would run both Swords Dance and Focus.
Oh yeah, Heracross was definitely one of the best fighting types in history.
Heracross's secondary stab that made it such a potent attacker. Another one of its major advantages over the other fighters was its speed. The other fighters, scary as they could be, all suffered from relatively middling speed. It generally didn't hold them back from getting their jobs done too much.
I could go get that last ladder that I had. I just put that down here. That's actually not a terrible idea, honestly. That's a good idea. This actually looks nice, dude. Holy shit. I have easy, clean access to my stuff.
To outrun its adamant sets.
It is a Christmas fucking miracle.
By running a Jolly Nature instead. Something that also put it ahead of the standard modest Moltres. But that still wasn't all. Heracross's deceptively solid special bulk meant it could stomach a stab psychic without much difficulty, and it took neutral water moves quite well. This was complemented by its nice base speed, meaning it often didn't have to fully invest and could instead bulk itself out some. Now, while the
I know I'm wasting Glowstone doing this, but I don't care. I want to use Glowstone here.
Others quickly established their unique traits as sufficiently valuable to leave metagame-defining impact. The sheer strength of Medichamp's previously alluded to was awesome in the literal sense, and it didn't even have to rely on a hidden power to strike Ghosts and Psychic. Breloom's Spore consistently demonstrated the brutal power of Sleep and sent a wave of Lung Berries rippling through the metagame. Its Mach Punch was also superb for checking Dragonite's Tyranitar and having a weapon against Dugtrio. Blaziken's Fire Stab meant it immediately threatened.
Okay, now that actually looks good. Aesthetic building for the win, I guess. See, look, it's like on both sides of the chest, like I can get to it. I don't even need these here technically, but I'm gonna leave them here for aesthetic purposes. But like, look at this, this actually looks good, you know? It's got mechanical power, it's just beautiful.
It could also slot knockoff in and ruin whatever had switching into it on its mind. Thick Fat was another option for its ability. With this, its its huge HP and utility capacity of knockoff, Hariyama was the one defensive fighter in Advanced OU. A last note, interestingly, while these fighters may do with their various stabs, Gen 3 was also...
I'll take all the drops from now, though, I guess. Why not?
120 base power was much more indicative...
Are they pissed at me because I went under there? I'm not even in the water. What the fuck? I was about to say, dude, like, really? They're gonna get mad at me because of that? That's the reason they attack me.
The Reggie Trio and Needle Queen. We've examined fighters generally thus far so as to examine the progression from their user origins to anti-metagame threat.
Stop, please.
Starting in Generation 4, though.
What, you think I'm fucking stupid? Well, you want to come over here and fight, do ya?
Origin point of their eruption into one of the most defining phases of competitive play. But because the way they begin to play here is so similar to how we can come to see them as a
Hang on, I need to go dump my inventory and actually clean it out.
So often circumventing the previous
actually, wait, perfect timing.
Whether through
Boots in there.
And or the addition of Choice Scarf, and partly because they now nearly universally receive an incredible stab move, they can rip through so much of
dude, the muffer is already working.
This move almost
that's hilarious.
Propelled the fighting type to become the force they still are today, and its very style is definitive. Superb 120 base power, perfect accuracy, and the only drawback is the drop of both defenses. This illustrates the fighter. Forget the balance of Brick Break. No, now we will drop our defenses in favor of all-out offense. CC defined things right off the bat in Diamond and Pearl, way before Platinum. Heracross wielded new stab with Choice Scarf and the secondary stab on par with its legendary Mega Horn. In fact, because of its far superior coverage, Close Combat was now its primary stab, not like the Mega Horn supporting mere afterthought that Heracross's fighting coverage had been in the previous generation. Of course, returning stars Machamp and Breloom did not pack Close Combat. Well, Machamp got it, but it was too busy wielding its infamous no-guard dynamic punch to devilish effect. Breloom made do with the less spammable but equally powerful superpower. It didn't mind too much because it was so enjoying the physical special split, now allowing it to use physical grass stabs. However, there were two new fighters in town, Lucario and Infernape. They defined the new breed of fighting type, which remains the standard of the playstyle to this day. Fast and spam in close combat. Now, Lucario wasn't blazing fast, but for a fighting type, it certainly was, at base 90. It was faster than any other fighting type up until that point, and in addition to being especially fast for a fighter, it had a perfectly solid speed stat, full stop. With this in mind, we can now see how revolutionary Infernape was, demonstrating the importance of speed, which made it much better than Blaziken, despite not being as powerful. At base 108, it wasn't just the fastest fighter by a country mile, but it was one of the fastest overall Pokemon in OU, its speed being a major defining part of the tier and indicating the future direction of fighters. They weren't just going to blast through you with sheer strength, they were going to outrun you while doing it. Of course, Infernape was also unique in that it was a fighter that often attacked on the special side, though of course not with its fighting stats. Even its mixed sets ran close combat. It helped that Pursuit was now physical, with Tyranitar's newfound...
Yeah, but then Latios came back and Blaziken actually gained a better niche, because, you know...
Just when you think that made it easy to slap on the support fighters...
Blaziken has something that Infernape will never have.
Been a crucial complement for fighting stats.
Higher attack stat. And also knockoff too, of course, but, you know...
hazard, Stealth Rock. It made it incredibly easy to punish anti-fighter Pokemon, switch into Ghost or Psychic and get pursued. Switch into Flying type and get 25% of your health ripped off. There are Flying type...
Really just need to make sure that it's, like, you know, covered here.
The most common is Skarmory, which doesn't actually resist fighting. The other, Gliscor, maintains its fighting resistance, but it also has an incredibly exploitable quadruple weakness to Ice Punch. Indeed, the physical special split also made it possible for many fighters to employ this move for similarly...
What the hell? You came all the way around here just to attack me. No, you're dying for that one, bud. Sorry. You chose death, you gambled, you lost.
Bug. Well, OU's defining bugs, Scizor and Fortress didn't resist fighting. Heracross did, but its paltry physical bulk meant it wasn't switching
Go away! Good God almighty, dude. They're so annoying. Why? What did I ever do to deserve that? Like, what the fuck?
But stab close combat was now the new norm. Not everywhere, not just OU. It wasn't required, of course, in addition to Breloom and
I could move that over to here, maybe. Yeah, I think I'll do that. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, apparently Pack Drift doesn't work, though. Of course course it doesn't. It would be too easy if it worked.
Visible everywhere. Lucario continued its
Sounds more like the devs just don't want people having access to easy mob farms, I guess. I don't fucking know, dude.
And newcomer Gallade, all spamming the move to superb effect. Gallade so much so that it actually got banned from Yu-Yu.
Shit.
After briefly dipping into the tier at the generation's end. And at that time, Generation 5 came around, taking the
Dude, if I drowned to death, that would be probably the single most embarrassing death possible, dude.
Dragons and weather abusers that dominated and defined the gen. Some players remarked it was as if among all the chaos already present, Game Freak had gone out of their way to make sure there were also plenty of new fighters. Infernape's base 108 speed tier, previously almost sacrosanct, was now rendered commonplace by the Swords of Justice. Of these, Cobalion not being an OU Pokemon, rather than suggestive of its flaws, more illustrated the incredible...
Oh yeah, then Blaziken got speed boost.
108 speed fighting type now fit perfectly fine in Yu-Yu. Right behind it was the base 105 Mienshao, which was OU. Also rocking OU were newcomers Scrafty, Virizion, and Conkeldurr, but king among them was the new close combat spammer, Terrakion, packing Infernape speed and downright vicious power. As fast as 8 was, its power, while certainly excellent, standard close combats were quite threatening, wasn't nearly as stunning as Terrakion, which dropped neutral targets much more easily.
Okay.
You know that rock coverage fighters like so much? That was Terrakion's second stat. And it wasn't like there weren't good fighting answers either. Gliscor gaining Poison Heal made it truly elite. Slowbro gaining Regenerator was massive. The Uniclipse was dominant, but in spite of them, Terrakion and its DC, especially Choice Bandit, shredded the metagame as much as it defined it, with many even considering it broken at the end of Black.
When are they gonna mention Blaziken?
Non-close combat users were better off than ever, too. On account of other major fighting buffs, Drain Punch's increase in power and PP made it a staple on Toxicroak, newly OU by virtue of its rain abuse, as well as bulky variants of the returning Breloom, and the aforementioned newcomer Conkeldurr. This gave the bulky fighting playstyle new life, and on the other side was a move even more extreme than close combat, wielded by Mienshao, Scrafty, and a newly speed-boosting Blaziken en route to becoming the first fighting type banned from OU was a massively buffed high jump kick, whose risk of enormous en route to becoming the first fighting type banned from OU was a massive...
Oh, they mentioned it. They mentioned it. They mentioned it.
Variants of the returning Breloom and the aforementioned newcomer Conkeldurr. This gave the bulky fighting playstyle new life, and on the other side was a move even more extreme than close combat, wielded by Mienshao, Scrafty, and a newly speed-boosting Blaziken en route to becoming the first fighting type banned from OU was a massively buffed high jump kick, whose risk of enormous recoil damage was well worth its monstrous leap to a CC eclipsing 130 base power, which potentially ascends to even higher heights with Mienshao, and in RU, Hitmonlee's reckless ability. Blaziken's ban didn't mean fighters even went down in number either. It was simply replaced by Infernape, and that was just Black and White 1. Come Black and White 2, you could forget most of these. No, not because of everyone's new fighting resistant Lander Styrian, but because fighting types rose to a new standard with OU dominated by Breloom, which had newly gained Technician and thus Mach Punches on par with Sizzler's famous Bullet Punch, and especially one of the new faces of the tier, the final Sword of Justice, Keldeo, unique among fighters in that it was a special attacker, unless you played Ubers, which had an uncontained Arceus fighting and its judgment unleashed upon it in Black and White as well. Though Keldeo,
dude, Arceus fighting was actually pretty good. It had the same coverage as fucking Terrakion, just not like the stab. To be fair, though, it had the bulk to make up for it, though, so it at least gets that, I suppose.
Incredible power and secondary stab. In fact, Keldeo led the fighting type into another generation of continued dominance in the 6th. This particularly illustrates the power of fighters because even the introduction of a new resist in the fairy type didn't much slow them down. Recall the issues of previous fighting resist, destroyed by Stealth Rock or Pursuit.
This is awkward. What was I gonna do again? Oh yeah, we need to move the,
Not only that, it's neutral to the rocket.
I need to move the sugarcane.
And yet Breloom and Terrakion were once again serious threats, especially Breloom, and Keldeo wound up being one of the best, most spammed Pokemon in the game. Even though Azumarill...
Dude, Keldeo was so fucking amazing in Generation 5. It almost got banned, I think, 3 separate times. I don't think it even came... I don't think it came very close on the first one and the third one. It almost got the ban hammer. I'm not surprised either, because, dude, its rain abuse shenanigans were so busted.
Way over the top with speed faster than Thundurus, let alone the Latios that had previously been a fighting deterrent, as well as the absurd power of its newly gained adaptability. We're talking Mega Medicham and Heracross, which in the wake of the ban of the also busted Aegislash, became among the most frightening, defining OU wall breakers. Mega Medicham's power was stunning, yes, but it was that power combined with the newfound base 100 speed that really made it so scary. Meanwhile, Mega Heracross actually
I just
slowed
heard
down,
someone
but
die.
also bulked out, making it more difficult to revenge kill, and thanks to its anti-psychic bug stat, it was well and truly unwallable. Even Mega Medicham wouldn't be able to get past the likes of you or
Okay.
Then came Oraz and non-choice Scarf fighting type speed.
Just needed that to break that up so that way I could get a flat level of water here.
135 was paired with a stab high jump kick that even Ghost couldn't block thanks to Scrappy. Oraz' fighting Megas were usually Lopunny for its incredible speed or Medicham for its outright destruction.
Mega Lopunny is pretty good. It's also, you know, thick rabbit, but whatever.
This dynamic continued into Gen 7. There, the
I'm in the thick of it, everybody knows. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Vanguard slowed down, but this Mega fighting trio continued to dominate and define the metagame, especially with terrain. They all enjoyed the status protection of missing terrain. Mega Medicham's Zen Headbutt was downright disturbing in psychic terrain, and Mega Heracross enjoyed underrated support from grassy terrain that not only reinforces bulk to recovery, but also enabled the most from its skill link boosted Bullet Seed. Before these Megas took off though, there was a new fighting type that was so monstrous it got itself banned. Joining Blaziken and Mega Lucario, Pheromosa.
Pheromosa.
Ethos to a new level.
Ah, yes,
Not
my
that it
favorite.
used close combat. Pheromosa was a high jump kick kind of girl, but more that a CC user is perfectly willing to drop their defenses in favor of that power. Pheromosa
Aw, dude,
had no
Pheromosa was
defenses to speak of,
ridiculous.
and instead went all out insane in both power and speed. It was the terrifying fighter, and no feasible attempts to find checkpoints.
I shall go out to right here.
To deny its might. It simply had
How much
to
do
be
I
accepted
have?
with
10?
the
Okay, maybe I
Goku
overkilled a little
Shadow
bit, but that's
upon the
okay.
introduction of Ultra Sun and Moon. It was exactly what you would expect from a fast close combat spammer. Ridiculously fast, ridiculously strong, and with perfect tools to ensure fighting
Stop
wouldn't want
it.
to come near it. It didn't last a day in OU and proceeded to terrorize Ubers. Beyond the Mega Trio, the terrains also supported the Halucha that
What
came into
the
its own
hell?
in this generation, eating its berries
just happened?
to activate its Unburdened and turning it into a fast, powerful monster after a Swords Dance, and a respectively bulky one at that. There was also the late discovery of a new close combat user. Komodo was excellent, both offensively
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
as well
harvest
as
my
by
sugar
their
cane, I
guidance
guess.
defensive Drain Punch using fighter. In this case, one that could take on Heatran, Astro Ninja, and set up Stealth Rock. Offensively, Komodo was unique for its variety. It could go mixed just as well as it could go all-out physical on a number of sets, whether it was Stealth Rocking or Dragon Dancing, and it had many different excellent precursors that it could run through its signature clangorous Soul Blaze, and its Omni Boost was the most notable. It didn't even matter that it had both stabs devoured by Fairy type. They were often one poison jab away from being nullified. Except
Well, I guess I can
but
move the
then
ones that are
Magic
right
was
here
just
too,
combat.
couldn't I?
But then
I don't
Gen
need
8
these
came
here.
around
I'm just
and
gonna make a
Blaziken
path right
used
here and
no
replace
more.
them.
What would become of the fighters? Given that Blaziken would wind up not just not banned, but in Yu-Yu, one might be forgiven for thinking this indicated a general trend against them, but not quite. Even putting aside the fact that Blaziken, now wielding close combat incidentally, made an excellent comeback as a major OU threat, the spammable fighter was going as strong as ever with the introduction of Urshifu, who terrorized OU in both guises. Rapid Strike wielded Keldio's famed stab combo alongside U-turn to superb effect, but it was the single strike form that was especially brutal thanks to its perfectly complementary secondary dark stab. The auto crit Wicked Blow that blew past Lander Experience Intimidate with power just as fierce as close combat, leading to single strike's eventual ban. We didn't want to switch any CC resist into it because of how badly it destroyed
Dude,
all
I'm
of them,
hearing things, I
except
swear
another
to
fighter,
God.
Mudswole, which fulfilled the bulky fighter role even after Urshifu's ban. It wasn't
I
just
can
a
leave
tank
that there,
either.
that's
The
fine. As
choice
long as it
that
just
proved
stays
itself
put, I
to
don't
be
really
as
give a
mighty a
shit.
close combat spammer as anything. It actually outmatched Urshifu's power-wise. Mudswole's cousin Pheromosa was banned again as well, and that still wasn't
Well, yeah, no
all OU
shit,
had to offer.
Pheromosa was
The
banned.
layers
Holy
that
fuck,
this
dude.
close ban
That thing was
was
awful.
utterly
That thing felt
ferocious.
even more
Because of
bullshit in
Defiant
Generation
Boost, it
8.
unleashed the scariest
I'm pretty sure I can
combat
remove these, right?
available,
Good,
making
good,
Boost
good.
even out of a resist as tanky as bold touch effects. And of course, Defiant meant Lander's
Okay, good.
only make it stronger, making
We'll
its
have to
close
remove
combat
this
the
one
most
too, sadly.
theoretically perfect of
Rip
all
old
this has been leading us
sugarcane
to Gen 9,
farm.
where Overwrought Fight Span has reached its zenith. Right off the
That
bat,
can
the
stay.
defining
That
Great
can
Tusk
stay.
is both offensively and defensively amazing.
I don't know if I'm gonna
And
put any
Tusk
right here.
seriously
Maybe if I
does
get more in the
even before
future, I
possibility
guess.
of photosynthesis speed boosting, and in fact, being so good defensively further fuels its potential to unleash close combat. Iron Valiant takes this further.
The
It's no
hell?
great shakes defensively, but it's so brutal on both sides of the spectrum.
fuck
not
was
just fast
that?
and strong, but with a tremendous spammability to its onslaughts. As to be a consistent source of controversy, Zamazenta...
Why is there a slime coming from me? No, go away.
With bulky fighting tactics, both in tanking ability...
Please, stop.
With close combats are solid too, of course. Though its attack is positively polite by modern standards.
Dude, he got 3 hits on me before I killed him. Where are they coming from? Is there a hole in my mob farm or something?
And its incredible toolkit, including what else? Superb attack and speed supporting close combat, especially once it activated Unburdened. You had another in the growing line of fighting types that were just too much for OU. We've gone from no fighters and Ubers to seeing them banned in every Gen 5 and onward. And if you glance at the actual Uber tier, it's just as crazy there. Koraidon is basically Mega Komo-O that is also a Groudon. What will they think of next, we wonder, as we summarize our findings through observing that fighters have become increasingly outranked.
Dude, nah, Koraidon is insane. Why did they ever even create that monster?
So there are some excellent, slower, bulkier examples as well.
Rip Creeper.
These strong, fast fighters have increasingly better, wilder tools to assist them in case raw power isn't enough. They have gone from the lowest of the low.
Nice. Okay, cool. That looks nice.
And in many cases, getting banned. The only question is, should Game Freak push them even further?
Yes, push the fighting types even further. Make them the OGs. Okay, do I actually have enough lily pads? Am I actually fucking done? I'll put that one there. Haha, just kidding. That looks like poo-poo.
Also, thank you so much for your patience, for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well.
Okay. I'll use gravel here at some point in the future too. I don't even know, dude. Let me make sure I have all the lily pads.
Thank you so much to our platinum patrons. Thank you to Amphozenus, Alex Sable, Anthony Belvo, Renault, Bingleton, Daniel Isby, Dr. Min, Funky, Glitcherton, Hal, Nurse Jake, Jack G, Lord of the Rabbit, Pretzel S.
I'm not gonna worry too much about placement. I think it's probably fine. Looks good to me.
And Quetzalcoatl Nothropai for their major support of our videos.
Yes.
And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.
Iron, baby. That's what I've been waiting for. Something to drop armor pieces. It was probably fully armored, but it probably just didn't drop anything else. You done? No. I got news, Fido.
When it comes to ruining your
I'm gonna use the rest of my normal food, so I don't have to deal with it any longer. Actually, I might save it, honestly. Never mind. We have enough to make or fucking kibble again.
Too many rock slide punches. It's that when you're playing against
I have
Weezing,
sugarcane
there's
roots.
absolutely
Fuck,
nothing
dude.
that you can
What?
do about it. That's because Weezing's ability is completely unique. It's called neutralizing gas, and it's new as of Sword and Shield. This ability is relatively simple to understand. While Weezing is on the field, no other abilities can be used. Now, if you're not super into competitive Pokemon, this probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal.
In doubles, that's a
After all,
very
Sword
big
level
deal, though.
86 Charizard
Neutralizing
can
gas
beat
is
the entire
busted,
Elite Four on
dude.
its own, and it's not like it needs an ability to do that, right? Abilities are so influential that they're one of the primary reasons many Pokemon get used. A key example is Incineroar.
Incineroar. Oh, justified response. 3 chests, by the way.
Ability Intimidate was released, at which point...
I know, intimidating Incineroar. Yeah, you thought Landorus Therian was bad. No.
Many of the top Pokemon at the moment, with Pokemon like Landorus, Urshifu, Chenpao, Amoonguss, Tornadus, Rillaboom, and more
Oh god, really?
to control the battle. But that won't work if I use Weezing, which is why I want to use it in a huge tournament with over 200 players. Well, that, and I think it's fun when I get to use Pokemon that don't let my opponents play the game. But Weezing is just one Pokemon, and to enter this tournament, I need 6, which means it's time to build a team. Before I can figure out which Pokemon I want to pair with the Gaseous Cherry, I need to decide how I want to use the Weezing itself. I actually have 2 Weezings to choose from. Normal, default skin Weezing, and...
Yeah, I guess I could
Galarian
put it here.
Weezing.
It's fine.
Both forms get neutralizing gas and share the same stats, with the key difference being Galarian Weezing is a poison and fairy type, whereas Kanto Weezing is pure poison. Now, you might think
Poison Fey is a good defensive typing, bro.
After some thought, I decided to go with
Because against
Kanto
Dark, you're
Weezing.
quad... Wait, is it
Not only
quad
more
resistance, I
iconic,
think?
But adding fairy to poison gives you a new weakness to steel. And the fighting and bug resistances you get, you already have from being a poison.
Okay, never mind.
In
It's
other
not
words,
dark.
I
Never
don't
mind.
think
I don't know why I
it's
thought it
dark
was. That's weird.
resistance and a dragon immunity.
Oh, I need the
But most
ladders
important
too.
thing to
Shit.
do when using wheezing
Okay,
is
so I need to
keep
I need to
alive.
get one stair
The
and
more
one
weakness you
ladder,
have, the
specifically
harder
a
that
ladder
is
for
to do.
this.
So I'm using Kanto Wheezing, and what I want to do with it is to make my opponents as unhappy as
4,
possible.
5,
That means I want to use moves
6.
that disrupt my opponent's strategies and don't let them play the game. Starting with Lulith and then adding Taunt. With these two moves, I can shut down physical attackers and support Pokemon respectively. I'll add Protect to keep Weezing safe, and Sludge Bomb so I can do some damage. I train Weezing to be generally as bulky as possible, and give it a Citrus Berry to help it stick around even longer. I go with the Terra type of Ghost to not only make it immune to Fake Out, but also to allow it to beat Extreme Speed Dragonite, who's been picking up in popularity.
Nice. How much is that? So I
Wanna
need
know something else
42
picking up in popularity?
gravel.
The
Oh
sponsor
boy.
of today's video, Raycon. Raycon is a premium audio company that provides premium tech products at a great price. They actually sent me their everyday earbuds to try out, and I gotta say, as someone who's never had a pair of wireless earbuds before, they're pretty nice. I love using my Raycon earbuds when I go on a run.
Oh yeah,
Previously,
ladder.
I've,
Stop
been
it.
running without music, so this is a lot nicer. You don't have to take my word for it. Raycon products have earned tens of thousands of 5-star reviews online. Also, if you're like me and you hate returning things, Raycon offers easy and free returns and free shipping.
But I just wanna use a
Great
half
as
slab
a
for this
last-minute
instead,
gift to
dude.
Head into this holiday season.
Let's be real.
And right now, Raycon is offering limited time bundles on some of their best-selling products, including fitness kits.
Can
and
you
everyday
put that
audio
in
kits,
the
and
thing?
several
I bet you
others.
can. I bet you can put it on a thing and get quarters.
After trying mine out. This holiday
I'm gonna check.
season,
I have to.
premium
I have to
audio
check. I
and
have to. I
power
have
tech
to.
At a great price. And save even
Oh, I
more
just heard him
doing
shit.
it.
Actually, we'll go down there
Go
in a second. I need to finish this.
Raycon.com/Goldie to get 15% off site-wide.
I could
Look at
put
Raycon
glowstone
for
right here
sponsoring this
instead, since that's where the
video.
torch
Really
was.
shuts down my opponent's
It's in a
abilities,
perfect
but it
spot, too,
also can shut
ironically.
down my own. That means that I have to be super precise with the partners I choose for Weezing. The thing is,
I
there
might
are a
fix
very
this stuff
small
down in there, but
handful of
honestly, I'm
abilities that
probably
aren't
not gonna.
affected by neutralizing gas for some reason. Included in this very short list is the abilities of the Paradox Pokemon, Photosynthesis
Oh,
and Warp
yeah.
Drive. For whatever reason, ancient and future Pokemon are immune to the gas, which means I have a starting point. One of the top Pokemon right now is Tornadus. He uses Tailwind, one of the strongest forms of speed control in the
I have
game.
to check. We
His
have to.
ability
We have to. We
Prankster
have
makes
to.
Tailwind always move first, meaning it's basically impossible to
It
stop Tornadus
does.
from
That's
setting
what I
up, putting
figured.
your team
I don't want the
immediately
half
at a
slab, dude.
speed
Fuck that.
disadvantage. But what if you could, I don't know, turn
And if
off
you're wondering why I don't put a
Prankster?
path right
Well,
here,
then you could
you
kill
know,
Tornadus
this right
before
here,
it
maybe.
moves and deny
You know,
Tailwind.
just maybe.
Something
I don't need
Tornadus
lighting
teams
here neither.
literally
That's
never have
mostly
to worry
unnecessary.
about. So, I'm looking for a Pokemon that's fast enough to outspeed
Also, being
Tornadus
down
and
here
strong
prevents
enough
squids from being
Tailwind
able to
one
launch
shot,
me, so that's
but also
very,
either
very
doesn't beat its
useful to
ability
me.
Or is a Paradox Pokemon. This is an extremely
Good.
specific set of criteria, but
That's
thankfully, there
it?
is one
Really?
Pokemon that fits
Come on,
the bill.
dog.
Torspec's Fluttermane. With Thunderbolt, it can one-shot
Dude,
Tornadus,
Fluttermane is
and
so
even if they
fucking
terrestrialize
broken.
Ghost, Terra Fairy Moonblast still picks
No
up the
joke, it
tail.
really
It
is.
doesn't
I don't know
need
why the
its
fuck they ever
power,
made
and
that
it doesn't need
monstrosity of a
ability. I
Pokemon.
give it a standard move pool, train it to be very fast and strong, and put the remaining stat points in its bulk. With both Fluttermane and
No, dude, you
Weezing,
basically
I
have
can
to
help
invest
against
in nothing in
Urshifu's
Fluttermane's
The thing
attack
is,
because of how
Pokemon like
insanely high it
Gaston
is.
and Rillaboom
I think I've got
don't
enough
have
dung to
ability
make
face
the,
off against Urshifu, and Amoonguss has bad synergy with
I think
Weezing.
I've got enough.
Is there a Pokemon that
Right?
can beat Urshifu without
I do.
ability? Well, as luck would have it, there is one. Ogerpon Wellspring. Although Water Absorb is amazing against Urshifu, even without it, Ogerpon doesn't really care about Surging Strikes because both of its types resist water. You might be thinking, but Wolf, doesn't Ogerpon get a different ability when it terastallizes? Doesn't Weezing turn that off too? And you're right. But here's the thing. Ogerpon's Embody aspect gives it a special defense boost when it terastallizes, which is really important and we don't want Weezing turning it off. But Ogerpon only needs to have a single turn on the field without Weezing for this boost to activate. And afterwards, it's like it doesn't even have an ability. I feel confident that if I know I want to terastallize, I can find that single turn where Weezing isn't on the field to get the boost before bringing it in and shutting down my opponent. I decided on a Swords Dance Ogerpon set with Cornleech. I don't feel like I need to follow me on my team thus far, and if Weezing shuts down my opponent's Pokemon, I showed some opportunities where I can safely go for a Swords Dance. At this point, the team is half done, and I feel like it's coming together well. But I'm a little worried about my team's speed support, since none of the great Pokemon I have can control the speed of
Okay, note to self, do not run this thing when I'm harvesting vines.
As Roaring Mid. It's a Pokemon that seems like it should be great on paper, but in practice, it's disappointing. One of the main reasons is that if it ever gets intimidated, it just turns into a wet paper bag.
Oh, it must have fallen in the last time.
Roaring Moon learns Tailwind, giving me the speed control I'm looking for. It also isn't affected by neutralizing gas, meaning I can run the booster energy item to give me a speed boost even with squeezing around. I round out the move pool with knockoff for damage and support, acrobatics with a paratype of flying to make sure it can function as an offensive Pokemon as well as a supportive one, and protect because it's the best move in the game. 2 Pokemon left. I'd really like Intimidate on this team, as even though it does get shut down with...
I'm just gonna remove it from the door. That's not very... That doesn't look very nice.
Value out of the ability
what the hell?
Squeezing around. I'm also looking for naturally fast Pokemon because I don't want to rely on Roaring Moon.
All I got was a stack at 44. That's not bad. That's a good start.
It's a classic. I like it. It meets my requirements.
Just gotta wait for the rest of it to grow now, I guess.
While Landorus itself isn't very exciting, it can be used in really creative ways with Weezing. For example, you can lead it with Ogerpon, Terastallize Ogerpon, get the special defense boost, and the Intimidate right away.
I'll put this here.
U-turn before your opponent moves.
Wait, can I even get through here?
Shut down abilities right
yes, I
away.
can. Okay, cool.
You can also do something incredibly niche, where if Weezing is on the field next to Landorus and
that'll give me double what I initially invested, so that's a good trade-off.
Uses out of Intimidate, you need to switch
I would argue that that's a
out,
pretty
and
damn
there's
good
ways
trade.
to get around that. Landorus also benefits
Where's
from
the
Weezing
7th
shutting
one?
down
What the
opponent's
fuck?
Intimidate. If I can get it into the late game where my opponent is low on HP and doesn't have that much that resists Landorus, I think I can run away with the game. Which means all I need now is one final Pokemon. I'm a little worried about Trick Room, and I need a Pokemon that doesn't need its abilities, so I add the classic Assault Vest Iron Hand. It's a standard set, but it's extremely strong, and I think it'll work here. And with that, the team is complete. You can use the team yourself via the rental code here on screen. And if you want access to all of my teams weeks before they go up on the channel, check out the Patreon. Not only do I post all my tournament teams there as soon as the tournament finishes, but I make 3 extra...
At the time of this video, Smogon is embroiled in 2 controversial suspect tests. In the current generation of Scarlet and Violet, the community has pooled their forum likes together to retest Palafin. Yes, you did hear that right. Meanwhile, in the land of Generation 4, Machamp is on the chopping block for the widespread hatred for its no-guard dynamic punches, often assisted by paralysis.
Why are they retesting Palafin, dude? That motherfucker was busted as shit, dude.
Tested instead of Jirachi, and its Serene Grace Iron
No
Head.
joke, I don't know
This
what
inspired
that
us to
dude,
look
I don't know
back
what the
throughout
fuck they're
history
thinking,
to
like,
examine
why?
some of the most controversial bands in Smogon's lengthy lifespan. The road to a more competitive metagame as democratically selected by the player base is quite rocky. Even if the results wind up being fruitful, you might arrive at a balanced metagame, but in order to do so, you might have to convince some people that, yes, that crazy broken Pokemon like Galarian Darmanitan should in fact be banned. So join us in counting down the top 5 most controversial Smogon bands of all time. Nowadays, Baton Pass being broken is considered the most obvious thing in the world.
The
It's so
Baton
obvious, in
Pass.
fact, that Gen 3 players regularly have to argue for why it's not broken in their tier. And despite the strategy...
Dude, no, I'm sorry. Baton Pass was always broken. Even since Gen 2 it was busted. There's no fucking way you will ever convince me otherwise.
VP being busted and therefore banned was not something you could take for granted. In fact, it took years and years of certain players fighting tooth and nail to convince the public that there was a problem at all. What made the whole affair particularly bizarre...
In Gen 2, they had to limit it, dude. You'd be surprised. That's not something they do typically. It's pretty rare for Gen 2 to even ban stuff at this point. They didn't ban a lot of stuff back then. But fucking that shit, Baton Pass, they had to nerf it. They had to limit it, otherwise it would have taken over. Spiderweb, for example, cannot be used in conjunction with it because of how busted it was. Because then Smeargle could set up and then Baton Pass ability drill off.
And this isn't a new revelation. In the advanced era, this was all well known, and BP users were looked down upon. The community back then tended to value expression of skill, and there was no skill in winning with a playstyle that played itself. If you thought you could outplay your opponent, you wouldn't use BP, because the game wouldn't be in your control. It only existed for worse players to try and squeeze an auto win against better ones. For this reason, there was a great stigma around BP that curtailed...
Oh yeah, back in early Gen 3, nobody used it because, you know, it was a cheesy, gimmicky piece of shit strategy.
Back then. Well, it was. in some smaller communities. The German player base instilled a 2 baton passer limit, for instance. However, back then, quote-unquote tiering as we know it now did not exist. It was basically a dictatorship, and if they didn't like it,
It was a
players were encouraged to play
dictatorship?
somewhere else. There were no suspect tests. What was Uber was very limited. Pretty much just the most extreme legendaries were Uber. There weren't even usage stats. With
Okay,
the
so let me
only
figure out how many blocks is
like
26
Uber,
blocks.
topped the general feeling of the dictatorship. Then in Generation 4, the massive new players flooding in from the introduction of Wi-Fi play ushered in the democratic community suspect system still in place today. This increasingly larger community also meant the honor code holding back BP use in tournaments slowly dissolved until eventually nobody was being shamed for bringing it back to a big game. At least not to the point where it dissuaded them from bringing it in the first place.
So 2 blocks from the exit point back there.
As opposed to
Oh, that's actually perfect,
However,
dude.
this did not mean Baton Pass wasn't considered pure cheat. Of course it was. Nothing had fundamentally changed about it. If anything, it was becoming alarmingly consistent.
So
with
2
further
blocks from
optimization,
the
giving it
inside.
inherently limited
Let me
counterplay
check something real
just
quick. I'm
became
gonna see
more
how
and
many
more
blocks I
limited.
built
So
out
with
in
this
my other
mind,
world.
Baton
If I
Pass
can
is
figure
far
that
less
out, then it
suspect
should
in
be a little bit
multiple
easier.
generations. All good, right? It only brought negatives by making the
We'll
game
use
less
this one.
competitive through how it decreased emphasis on player skill and increased issues of matchup. This is exactly what the suspect test system is for, right? Well, as it turned out, much of the player base loved complaining about BP, how unfair it was for them to get cheesed by it in a tournament battle, how unskilled it was and whatnot, but for reasons unknown to us even now, general contrarianism, maybe. When it
So,
came
yeah,
time to
roughly
actually potentially ban it, these
26.
same players were singing a different tune.
I did
Part of it
roughly,
was the
what,
general opposition to banning a move as opposed to
26,
banning a
7
Pokemon.
blocks
But this
roughly,
soon
give or
dissipated
take?
into just the idea of quote-unquote
Yeah, that's
BP
fine.
is fine because it doesn't actually beat everything.
I mean,
It's
the
same kind of
exit point
logic
right here is
used to justify
basically on the
Genesect not
outskirts,
being
right?
broken because it's not as bad as Groudon. Nowadays, BP's unbalanced nature is the most self-evident of foregone.
Wait a second,
conclusions.
what?
A decade or so ago, convincing your average player it was a problem was like pulling teeth. Many an argument was made for the positives of such a tactic being present in the metagame actually, because it keeps team building honest, despite the directly anti-competitive nature of its
Are they
overly
spawning on there? No way, no way, no way, no way, no way, no way, no way. We have to test this, we have to test this. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Tomorrow morning I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna test
It
it.
took oceans of effort across several attempts to get BP neutered at all, and then when it proved problematic even in its neutered form, to have it removed outright. Of course, once BP was removed, nobody missed it for a second. In fact, everyone is thrilled to not have to deal with it anymore. Nobody is defending BP in
So,
However, to get to
this
this
right
point,
here is
many
26. So
generations
this
of
is a
players
good
had to
spot
wade
to
through a
put the
tidal wave of
tower,
outrage that
roughly
this move
anyways.
that didn't even do damage was getting banned. The 3 Pokemon mentioned here are well known for how outstandingly broken they were in
But,
the
like,
metagame. There
I
are
can't
some
put it
bans
over
that
there,
are small,
obviously.
that
That
could
would be
have gone either
stupid.
way.
That wouldn't
Think something
work,
like Gen 4
probably.
Salamence, Gen
And I
6
can't
Pokemon
put it
Down,
like,
the kind
I
of
can't
Pokemon
put
that
it there
you'll
because that
occasionally
wouldn't
see
make any
someone ask,
sense
"Was it
either.
really as bad as all that?"
Or could I?
Garchomp, Blaziken, and
Oh,
Gen
wait now,
6
hear me out,
Pokemon
hear me
are
out.
Decidedly not that.
I feel like that would
They're
actually be a
opposite.
decent
They're
spot
all
to put it,
below as
ironically.
incredibly busted. Nobody good is campaigning to bring them
Just
back.
give me a sec,
However,
give me a
when
sec,
they were
give me a
first
sec.
up on the chopping block, they were met with gales of protest in spite of their overwhelming
Come on
power.
now.
We have groups that
Maybe,
together
let
because
me
they
cook
fall
here.
under the
Let me
common
cook.
umbrella
Let me
of what is
fucking
referred
cook,
to by the
goddammit.
experienced player base
I
as
might be
new
on
toy
to
syndrome.
something. I just need to
Garchomp
find the
and
center of
Aegislash
the
just
of the
introduced in
bit.
respective generations.
Oh, it has to be
Blaziken
the
was, of
center
course,
of the
not new with Gen
freaking mob
5,
farm,
but the
dude.
addition of speed boost on
Okay,
it
yeah,
has
that's
made it
definitely a
practically an entirely
little
new
bit
Pokemon.
further
Moreover,
than the
these
blocks
Pokemon
that
were
I was
all proposed to
thinking.
be banned relatively
Whoops.
early in their respective generations, understandably given their brokenness. Garchomp was banned before Platinum even came out. Blaziken was banned early in Black and White 1, and Aegislash was banned in X and Y, sometime before the release of ORAS. It is also understandable then that a significant portion of the player base that enjoyed using them due to their effectiveness was reluctant to see them as sufficiently broken as deserving a ban. The toy was still new.
I just need
and
some
they
extra
weren't
dirt
ready
real
to
quick.
pull
I'm
it
gonna
up yet,
fix that
as many
hole
of
right
them
there,
would
or like
later
that
hit.
dip.
There was significantly less
Gotta get
pushback
that dip.
against various other bans like Thundurus and Cardin and Excadrill, because by the time they were on the chopping block, the metagame had been played for long enough to where the allure of the new had worn off. But
Okay,
interestingly,
cool.
They had been suspects earlier in the generation, and they
Yeah, just fill
weren't
that in right
banned.
there. It's all
Despite
good.
nothing fundamentally changing about
Oh,
the
you
Gen
just
6 and the
missed,
eventual
boy.
ban. They had to be subjected to the
What a
process
fucking
multiple
loser.
times. New toy syndrome definitely interfered.
Damn.
at first. Garchomp,
I
Blaziken,
just
and
cooked
Aegislash
so
were
hard that the
overpowered.
rain
They
stopped.
were banned in spite of the outcry against them, which is why they were so controversial.
Ooh,
There
what are you
were
gonna
other
do about that
factors
one, huh?
contributing to each of their bans beyond
She ain't
the
gonna do
toy
fucking
syndrome, of course.
shit.
The suspect test process was still new at the time of Garchomp's ban.
Oh, did I just just get a Glant? No way.
The advanced era players would rather
Anyways.
just deal with it, since they preferred to not ban anything weaker than Kyogre, and the new players, many of which had attachment to Garchomp due to its legendary status that made it one of the faces of the 4th gen, especially as it was Champion Cynthia's strongest Pokemon. Blaziken was the first ever starter Pokemon to get banned from OU.
Get away.
Which caused a storm of outrage from massive throngs of casual fans who wanted to use their in-game favorites in standard play. And
So
Aegislash, well, perhaps due to the rather unprecedented nature of its playstyle, there was a significant portion of the player base which...
Okay, hang on. Where's the center of the mob farm? How many blocks is this?
Through its tier-warping King Shield was a matter of skill. The much
So the wall...
quote-unquote, outplay the coin flip was originally said in complete seriousness, to say nothing of the weighted aspect of the 50-50, where Aegislash
7 blocks?
always just played
So 8 from the center?
Many players went on crusades, explaining to those less experienced how this was actually a very bad thing to have around. Aegislash's popularity was such that it actually got retested in ORAS, which many consider
Mob Grinder better than Wolves Distance.
Never underestimate the fondness of new toy syndrome.
Here's what I found.
How far should you be from your mob trap?
The old school players protesting the culture of
You can build a monster trap almost anywhere, but it will be less effective if you don't choose the right location. You need to be far enough from places where monsters can spawn.
How far away from your mob spawner should you be?
Not an actively tiered metagame. Yes, people enjoy playing the ban list because all the crazy...
How many blocks away from your mob grinder should you be?
Even if there was something particularly strong, usually Kyogre,
I found this on the web.
Never actually see it get anywhere close to ban.
So 24 to 32. Okay, that makes sense. So this is what?
We're in Uber. That's just how it is here. We don't ban things. We just play with the stuff too strong for
So
OG.
7 blocks. So that's what? We'll just say what? Get away. What the fuck? You motherfucker, get out of here. Dude, how did he even see me? What? Fuck out of here. Anyways, this is 7, 8.
ORAS arrived and unleashed Mega Rayquaza, a beast that made Xerneas look like a decent pick in UU, and forced the Uber's player base to rethink their entire conception of what
wait,
the
no,
metagame
7,
was supposed
8.
to be. The idea of tiering Ubers had come up previously, given that it was being played in major tournaments, and an unbalanced metagame shouldn't be in such tours. But since the meta had actually been balanced,
so this right here is the median point, basically where the bare minimum is achieved.
But because the Uber's player base themselves were in shambles, as Mega Ray sent everything into disarray, it made every Mega in the tier obsolete, and this was a tier with Mega Salamence and Gengar in it. It packed Deoxys attack offenses, speed that vaulted and passed the Latias Twin, fantastic bulk for something so dangerous, combined with the fact that it had shed its flying weakness thanks to Delta Spin. All this might have been manageable had it not been for the minor little detail that it was a Mega that could hold an item. This was more outrageous than Kyurem Black's mightiest attack in a fairy type-less metagame. The tier was completely warped around it to degrees absurd even by the Uber tier's highly centralized standard. But still, what was there to do? Ban a Pokemon from Ubers? That was instantly on everyone's mind, yes? But to quote the great Woodchuck Kudchuck Berkowitz, the idea was unprecedented poppycock. This poppycock had no precedent. Where would this banned Pokemon even go? Ubers was the highest tier after all. Everyone scrambled for a solution, and 1 week into ORAS's existence, the Anything Goes tier was created, allowing players who really wanted to use Mega Ray a place to use it. They could even use 6 Mega Ray for all we care. While the Uber's player base would be able to play a competitive metagame once again. The existence of the Anything Goes tier wasn't the controversial part. It was the fact that Mega Ray was banned. Nobody with the Uber tier's competitive interests at heart missed it, of course, but boy was the casual player base furious. Starters banned from OU, and now the coolest, most ultimate legendary banned even from the tier upstairs. Anything Goes placated these players in the long run.
Mega Ray deserved the ban, dude. Why did Game Freak do that? So I put it 27 away?
Be the subject of such discontent.
So right here would be where I would need my little sleeping quarters to be then.
Snowcloak in Gen 4? You mean that tier ruled by permanent sand? Yes, bear with us. The tale doesn't begin with Snowcloak, but its cousin ability, Sandveil. With the omnipresence of said permanent sand, in Gens 3 through 5 of OU, Sandveil's evasion has been a source of some of the greatest frustration in standard play. Even Cacturne and Gligar
the hell? The fuck out of here.
First noticed though, in Diamond and Pearl.
Finally got him down from there, I guess.
In Gen 5. Garchomp was banned for Sandveiling in Black and White 1.
Oh yeah, Sandveil, that's that's right. Sandvale's busted as hell, dude.
Even Sandvale itself had
Even without Sandvale, Garchomp would have been banned. There's no way it would have been allowed. Like, it was just way too OP back then. Something like Garchomp, like, dude, that thing was able to compete with fucking Rayquaza since it was faster. Garchomp was actually one of the best Ubers in Generation 4 too, actually, because of how good its attack stat was relative to its amazing speed. Despite the fact that it had a quad weakness to Ice, yeah, I think that's pretty passable if you consider the fact that it basically killed everything that it didn't resist its attacks. Or I guess in this case it's Outrage, but whatever.
You also need to ban Snowcloak, because it's functionally the same ability. This, of course, missed the part where Snowcloak had never been an actual issue at all in Gen 4. While Bombasnow required to activate it...
Bombasnow.
Using a Bomba, you didn't want to double up on Ice types, especially since the viable Snowcloak Pokemon were Mamoswine, which was also rare, and the rarest of all, whose only use in Diamond and Pearl was as a suicide Spikes lead that faded immediately at the beginning of the battle. The odds of a Bombasnow and Mamoswine being in the same battle were that minimal, and for that matter, so were the odds of Mamoswine actually being on the field with Hail Luck, since Tyranitar was still extremely likely to appear on either side of the field. Even something like Rain Dance Kingdra had a high chance of interfering with the strategy. Nobody was abusing Snowcloak.
How many straps do I have? I'm gonna make the padding real quick, actually, now that I think about it.
Teams was getting unfairly punished by opponents using Mamoswine. However, thanks to the insistence of the policy debaters, Snowcloak was put on the chopping block alongside Sandvale.
Yes! Oh my god, holy shit, dude.
Oblivious even. But Snowcloak was Frostlass's only ability, and this in effect banned Frostlass from Diamond and Pearl OU, despite having done nothing to merit it and occupying a unique place in the metagame. It died for the sins of Gliscor, who of course continued to be used thanks to its other ability, Hyper Cutter. This saddened Gen 4 players who enjoyed Frostlass's little niche as both the fastest spiker and the only spiker immune to Rapid Spin. It barely affected the metagame, true, but it felt like such a needless loss. However, a few years later, this was rectified. Recognizing Frostlass's unique niche, a new rule was instated. Snowcloak was banned on all Pokemon that had another ability to use. This meant Mamoswine, which had another ability, was not allowed to use Snowcloak. However, since Frostlass only had Snowcloak, it was allowed, and for several years, it popped up sparingly in its Little Spike's lead role. Everyone was happy, and nobody feared Snowcloak abuse. The idea was that if you wanted to make an Abomasnow Frostlass team work in a metagame dominated by Tyranitar and Hippowdon, more power to you. There's a reason why nobody risked it in a serious tournament. And then in 2023, in the wake of the new cheese-maxing mentality spreading throughout the player bases of all metagames, a select few players decided that Snowcloak needed revisiting. Initially, the idea was met with great resistance, for the usual reasons that we already stated. It wasn't an actual problem in the sand-heavy metagame, and Frostlass had its nice little niche that would be a shame to lose again. The idea was shut down for a few months, until Hail Frostlass Cheese, previously never seen used before by any player of Refuge, started popping up on the ladder. The Frostlass sets were truly gruesome. One particularly nasty one was Substitute, Protect, Ice Beam, and Mud Slap.
What?
To further accentuate the accuracy evasion issue, as a result, Snowcloak got the axe once again, and Frostlass went with it, banned the second time. The controversy began with the fact that the evidence provided for the brokenness...
No, dude, okay, that would make sense. I can't say I really blame them for getting rid of it.
The issue stemmed from paralysis and confusion, like those abused by Jirachi and Machamp. This was not the real issue though. The player base had also accepted that, yes, if cheese exists, people will use it. So it's a good idea to get rid of any potential for Snowcloak nonsense. Nobody would miss that. However, that did not mean that a blanket Snowcloak ban...
Why not just do a complex ban where you ban the use of Snowcloak alongside Hail?
Team would remove the issue entirely.
Wait, no, you couldn't do that.
Frostlass in order to cheesily punish Abomasnow. Doing so would be a whole new level of unreliable. Abomasnow teams at least had great cheese potential against sandless teams, or if the opposing Tyranitar was worn down, but using Frostlass on the very low chance that the opponent would bring Abomasnow would be an absurd waste. By the way, if you're wondering why Sandstream and Sandvale didn't have the same complex ban, it's because Sandvale was axed in its entirety since there was no meaningful collateral, and Vale only punished the use of one of the most essential Pokemon in the metagame with RNG, which is somewhat akin to your opponent bringing an important Pokemon, meaning you are allowed to use
yeah, basically, here's how you make a padded armor trim or armor trimming bits. So you do that.
There was no
Or no, you do
downside
that.
whatsoever.
That.
However, even if it was down
And
to
then the
ban
diamond
Snowcloak
goes
or
there.
don't ban
Or diamond
Snowcloak,
ding god,
most of the
excuse
player
me.
base would have happily allowed Snowcloak to stay in its previous form for the sake of not banning Frostlass. Unlimited Snowcloak Frostlass was clearly not a problem for the metagame. This wasn't an option though, and the second full-on Snowcloak and thus Frostlass ban was handed down from high, a decision which greatly displeases the player base to this day.
It would make sense though, if they're gonna abuse Frostlass like that, it's gonna get banned again. It's a cheap, easy to do tactic that allows bad players to win. That's essentially the reason they banned it, and I completely agree with it. It's like how in Better Than Wolves, where they take away the exploits that make the game too easy. Duh. The game wouldn't be hard if it was if you were allowed to do that. It would be mindless. It would basically just be a waste. It would have been a waste of parts.
Even Abomasnow joined the fray sometimes. Most of the time though, it was Sand versus Rain versus Sun, and as scary as Sun was,
I need ladders.
primarily a battle between the two most consistent weathers, Sand and
How
Rain.
many did I
There were
do?
discussions about
How
banning
high is this
Perma
thing?
Weather altogether
How high
early
am
on,
I?
But even without going
I'm
that
pretty
extreme,
high.
there were
I'm
also
high up into
many
the
discussions
stratosphere.
about completely
What
banning
the fuck?
permanent
Why
weather
did I do that, dude?
The monstrous boosts
Anyways,
Naruto provided his team were
I
considered
could just use the
overwhelming
ladders as a
from day one.
reference.
Swift Swimmers were the most obvious, of course. Specs Kinder's Hydro Punks blasted through just about all of OU, 3-hit KOing even Ferrothorn, and you didn't exactly want to switch your weather setter into it. There were many other...
So 15 ladders, cool.
Kabutops was similarly ferocious. The likes of Ludicolo, Amistar, and Gorbis were terrors as well. Of course, Swift Swimmers were just the beginning. There were plenty of already
15
threatening water
ladders.
types that
Got
became
it.
utterly brutal under rain. Life Orb and Specs Starmie became nearly impossible to switch into.
Good
while
to
Dragon Dance
know.
Gyarados became newly menacing. Manaphy was pushed.
That's not too
into
bad. That's
Pokemon.
pretty reasonable, I would
and
say.
it wasn't just water type. The boost to Latios' Surf gave it an easier time smashing through steel. Thunderous wielding 100% accuracy Thunders cranked
It's this,
its already
right?
terrifying
This has to be the
electric stab
recipe.
up to
Yeah,
a
it's the
ruthless
recipe.
level, while Tornadus' 100% accuracy Hurricane became one of the most spammable attacks around.
Why do you only get two?
Boosts too. Defensively, the reduction of Ferrothorn's fire weakness made it even more impossible to
Oh, wait, I
take
said
out, while
15,
the
not
activation
bad.
of Tentacruel's Rain Dish made it one of the most immortal Pokemon in the game. With this in mind, the player base was gunning hard to get rid of Drizzle. It was quickly made
Oh
a
yeah,
success and
Alderon's
received a
proposal
simple
in Generation
majority
5, I
percentage
think
to
is what it was
ban.
called.
Meaning if it received
This was a long
another
time
one
ago. I
in
don't
the
quite
next
remember all the
testing, it was
details.
gone. However,
Yeah, people did
at
not
this
like
point,
it though, let me
Alderon's
just say. They
proposal was
fucking
made. Alderon,
hated
a
it,
major
dude.
tournament
And understandably so, it was a very radical proposal.
Of the metagame if Rain was nerfed without being banned entirely. This would prevent Sand and Sun from getting out of hand and thus limiting the number of bans needed overall. It proposed to do this with the unprecedented complex ban of Drizzle and Swift Swim on the same team. This was not met with universal agreement. Many warned of the danger of going out of one's way to preserve an otherwise broken playstyle, one that very well might be even broken without Swift Swim. Salamence didn't have Draco Meteor banned on it in Gen 4, nor was level 82 Mewtwo allowed in OU, they said. Drizzle shouldn't be any different, and yet the proposal was put in place, and it was there that it was decided that Gen 5 would be the weather generation. No matter how much weather may be screwing things up, rain abusers were repeatedly targeted for banning. Manaphy, Thundurus Incarnate, Tornadus Therian, and even nowadays players complain about Thundurus Therian, while Keldeo was almost banned twice as well. Rain was preserved above
thought it was banned
all
almost
else,
3
being the
times.
inherently overwhelming
Maybe I
force
missed
of Rain,
something.
The Scald turned Hydro Pump, the Hydro Pump's gone berserk, and everything else would always be a part of the metagame, no matter how detested they were. Meanwhile, the original point of the ban, to keep other weathers in check and limit further bans, didn't work. Sand and Sun abusers were banned repeatedly until they were shells of their former selves. If the goal was to keep the ban list minimal, it failed. Gen 5's much maligned reputation as the broken weather generation all began with this complex ban, which set the tone for the rest of it.
I might go up
Its identity
16
was
instead,
weather,
just so I
and
can
weather
use all my
itself would never be
ladders.
banned. Forget the competitive side, it sparked
So I'll still
controversy
be
then,
within
and has
20
never really
blocks,
stopped.
right?
And that's it. Of course, there are some other
the
solid
hell?
options we could have included.
Why can I
If
not
we were
place
to
that?
return to the subject, we definitely look into Shadow Tag, Arena Trap, multi-generational sleep bans, and a more in-depth look at Sandvale.
So that's
Perhaps
that.
even
Yeah,
Miraidon
I'll
and
use
both
up the
Zacian
rest of
Pumps too.
Fuck it.
Let
It
us know
won't
what you'd
negatively
like to
affect
see,
my
as
mob
any
farm for
ban
the
can be
most part, I'm
considered
sure.
controversial, of course.
I hope.
Even Galarians, Armanitan, and Mega Mawa had their defenders, but in our view, they are the most blatant. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you want to watch another video about Spoken
Okay.
Bans, we did do a video a couple years ago on
Glowstone
Scarlet
right
Violet's release called the
here.
top 5 quickest bans in OU history. It's a really fun video. You should go
Rayqu-
check it out.
actually, I
And
think
always, if you
Rayquaza got
like the
banned
video,
in
you wanna
less
see
than
more, be
2
sure to
weeks,
subscribe
was
to
it?
Fall Swipe Gaming for weekly Pokemon content. And thank you so much for
Denied.
being support of our videos. Thank you to everyone else watching as well.
What a fucking loser, dude. He just dropped his will to live. Wait, no, he'd have to drop a scroll for that to be the case. Never mind. Get away from me.
And thank you so much to our platinum patrons. Thank you to Amphozenus,
God,
Alex
dude.
Sable,
Can't I just
Anthony
build in
Belval,
peace,
Renault,
please?
Singleton, Daniel is Beast, Dr. Mint, Funky, Glitcherton, Hal, Nurse Jake, Jack G, Lord of the Rabbit, Skylaria, Soares and Croxton, Kiwi Miji, Stoneface Collins, Kaboflu,
Stoneface
and
Collins.
Photo
Okay.
for their major support of our videos. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.
This will take a lot of wood, but this is why I went and sacked that village for all the wood that it was worth. Because I knew I was gonna need it. And I can put my bedroll up here. I can sleep up here, dude. Holy shit. I can see my fishing tree from up here. Let's go.
Today we have one of the most
Shut up,
iconic
Ash.
starter Pokemon.
I mean ass.
and one
I
of the
mean
most
ass
iconic
ketchup. I mean
Pokemon,
Ash.
period.
Fuck up.
Having achieved that status ever since it debuted in the original Pokemon games. Pokemon
How wide
Red and
did I,
Green. Yes, that's
how wide did
right,
I make
not
this?
Blue, but Green, which was the original Japanese release. It's
Yeah,
not a
green was
remake of
technically the
Fire Red
first.
and
Okay,
Leaf
so it's
Green,
only
not
3 by
Water
3.
Blue
Or
whatever.
5 by 5,
Anyway,
yeah.
Other than its appearances impressively adorning box art, the Venusaur line has long
Put glass
since
up
been
here,
famous for its
obviously.
appearances in the
What did I do
anime.
with
Ash's
the,
Bulbasaur was a
glowstone,
hugely
actually?
popular fan favorite, with Violence
Is
and
there any
Razorleaf that
glowstone?
regularly transcended
Oh, it's on the
physical
ceiling. What the
limitations of
fuck?
the type chart. Plus, let's be
Okay,
honest,
I didn't
all of
expect
us
that at
one
all,
point named our
actually.
Venusaur Brute after seeing it in the original Pokemon movie.
Your fake Venusaur can't beat my real one. Right, Groot?
Groot,
Even
Groot.
though it loses to the OP clone Venusaur, it stuck with us. We've got a lot of
So how
competitive
many blocks
history
up
to
did
go
I
over
do
today.
this?
So without any further ado, let us ask the question, how
1,
good
2,
was
3, up.
Venusaur actually?
Okay, cool.
And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. Venusaur's Psychic
Yes.
and Blizzard weaknesses, alongside its lack of threat potential, pretty much automatically disqualified it from the first generation of OU. It has some nice
Yeah, its
tools,
psychic
yes,
weakness
like its
really
stat
holds it back
auto-crit
in
Razor
Generation
Leaf
1.
with
Like,
a
I'm
solid
sorry,
base
it
100
just
special
cannot
and
get
a
it done.
Sword Stance boosted Hyper Beam. The problem, if you're going to use a Grass Poison with these traits, you're actually going to use Victory Bell every single time. Its Razor Leaf hit equally hard, and its Hyper Beam hit much harder.
put my
with a
bedroll, like,
whopping
right
23
here,
more
so-
base attack than Venusaur. Plus, this wasn't even Victory Bell's main strength.
That
would be
way
the
I can see.
controversial, arguably broken
I'll need to light up
something
all of
Venusaur
that
did
area
not have
back there, at
access to.
least
Venusaur
50
also
blocks
lacked
past my,
Sun
like,
Spore,
you know,
and
like,
Victory
sight
Bell
section.
loved the option of spreading paralysis.
It'll have to go
Venusaur
back
wasn't
at
the
least
worst
5
thing you
more
could bring
layers,
to OU,
maybe
but there's a
6,
reason it
maybe
wasn't
7.
actually used or even
I may go back
considered
even more
as
than that,
play.
honestly.
I was only ever acknowledged as a gimmick you would bring because you were really attached to Bulbasaur growing up or something. Venusaur was UU for quite some time, but it was completely and utterly outclassed because guess who else was in the tier? Victory Bell. As such, when
Yeah, Victory Bell basically deleted any
Venusaur
reason to
dropped
use
there and
Venusaur.
was
Like,
very
I'm sorry,
good. Its
Venusaur, you're
primary
not very
function was
good
taking
compared
advantage of
to
water types
Victory
like
Bell.
Blastoise. Incidentally, RBYNU was treasured at this time for being a tier where all 3 starters weren't just viable, but very good. Fires like Charizard were generally powerful, which made waters better, and thus in a
Damn it.
roundabout way, fires being as good as they were meant Venusaur was consistently useful. Venusaur was also a strong, defining part of the lead metagame, where its fast sleep and good bulk meant it consistently got its
Wait.
team off to a good start, effectively taking on the popular Blastoise, Clefable, and Electrode leads, while sometimes it even stay in and stomach a Mr. Mime Psychic because getting Mime slept was incredibly valuable. Venusaur didn't last in NU though, not because it was overpowered, but because of its promotion to UU. Victory Bell became so effective and popular in OU that it was promoted, no longer being an OU Pokemon only by viability, but now by status as well. Venusaur delighted moving to fill its shoes in UU, and it did the job quite well, proving itself with high usage and win rate, even though the tier was dominated by its natural enemy Articuno. It was actually a great partner for Articuno, since it used the Pokemon that were used to check Articuno, bulky waters like Vaporeon and Dugong, as opportunities for
God
Razor
damn
Leaf
it.
spam. It actually outspent Dugong, unlike the previous Victory Bell that had speed tied it. Venusaur also effectively leveraged its superior physical bulk to better withstand Dugtrio's Earthquake, making it more difficult difficult to revenge kill. Even before it got an attack off, Venusaur would shut down an opposing Pokemon with Sleep,
Get away.
an incredibly powerful status in Gen 1 due to its length and inability of an afflicted Pokemon to move on the turn it woke up. Venusaur had the second fastest sleep in the tier, only behind Venomoth, and outpaced much of the metagame in its own
Yeah,
right.
Venusaur's
Getting the
pretty
jump on
fast,
Hypno
actually,
was particularly
ironically.
excellent. Besides its hard-hitting Razor Leaf, it also messed with switches through Body Slam, pairing potential paralysis with decent damage, and Toxic, which most notably ruined agility wrap attempts from Dragonite, as well as the Tangela that would otherwise wall Venusaur.
Okay, I just need to put gravel here and then we'll be done.
But Venusaur
We're not
did a
done yet, I
solid
still need
beat
to
for itself
plug
in
this
the tier
area up
as a
too.
consistent performer against the tier's many bulky waters. Then, after this brief positive fortune, a series of changes rocked the tier, none of them favoring Venusaur. Sleep was banned from the tier, and there went Venusaur's best tool, the one thing it could rely on consistently, and thus much of its niche was lost. Then Hypno was banned from the tier, which eventually prompted the unbanning of Sleep, with Hypno recognized as the main reason why Sleep had such a detrimental
Get
effect on the
away.
tier. And indeed, the metagame was far less chaotic when it was Venomoth, Venusaur, and Tangela doing the
God,
sleeping. All
dude.
good Pokemon,
That's
but
just
far from
fucking
the
annoying.
tear-shattering force that was Hypno. Okay,
I'm gonna put fence posts here too so I can't get sucked into the fucking water, dude.
As a genuine OU Pokemon was over, and as such, it
It's
lost
a
its
little
status,
rustier.
meaning it
It's a
came
little
right
rough
back to
around the
being to
edges.
outclass Venusaur. As such, Venusaur wound up dropping back to NU, and this time around, it wasn't much good. Why? Because Victory Bell was now in the tier as well, and even Victory Bell struggled with this fast-paced new tier with threatening grass resist aplenty. Thus,
Yeah, I'll
through
probably
a
put my
series
bed
of
right
farcical
here.
events beyond its control, Venusaur's success didn't last, and it ended its
I can put
debut
my other
generation
farms
in
like
a
in this
fairly
area too. It's
poor
nice that my
spot.
base has
Venusaur was
everything
thoroughly
within like
mediocre
a
in the
fifth,
second
no,
generation.
within like a
It was
100
Team
block
Pro,
like
which
squared
meant that it would be
zone.
far too good at using its Falcon boost and Blaster UU, so it was relegated to BL. Did it have any chance at an OU niche then? Well, it seemed like it'd be okay with the same type of strategy. After all, it had a nice typing to shrug off the legendary Electric, and was effective against a slew of other top OU threats like Nidoking, Machamp, Vaporeon, and Tyranitar. The problem was that Venusaur was just so weak. Its base special attack was fine, and even the fact that growth only boosted one stage was fine. It was the fact that its choice of Grass Stab, either Giga Drain or Razor Leaf, had such ludicrously low base power that it'd take forever before it threatened much of anything. And before it reached that point, it'd be overwhelmed by Snorlax or Zapdos or just about anything else like Gengar, since Synthesis only had 8 TP. While if it chose to run Sleep Powder instead, it'd get overwhelmed even more quickly. And the absurd prominence of Sleep Talk meant it wasn't like Sleep was that impactful in and of itself. The choice of hidden power Fire or Ice was backbreaking too. It wanted Ice to not be walled by Zapdos, but being stuffed by Skarmory was just terrible. And if it went with HP Fire, it also suffered a major bulk loss due to the lower.
Damn, I already have 27. That's impressive, dude. That's actually really, really, really good.
Than previously. Venusaur was
That is no joke,
with
bro.
a defensive set as a pseudo Meganium with a
The
nice
plains off in
pop
that
shot
direction are
research
going to be
from
where we get our
Machamp, which was
animals.
nice in
I didn't go in that
theory,
direction
but
for that
Meganium
exact
itself was
reason
already
too.
pretty niche, and it was better than Venusaur
Well?
anyway, thanks to superior physical bulk and a more valuable resistance to Earthquake, letting it handle Marowak. For
raining?
some reason, Venusaur didn't get Sludge Bomb in Gen 2. If it
Why
did,
didn't it
Swords
get
Dance
Sludge
sets
Bomb
would
in Gen 2?
definitely
What
be
the
worthwhile. And alas,
That's so
Gen 2 pretty
stupid.
much
They basically
entirely
fucking
passed
cheated it
Venusaur
out of
by.
having any
Things
viability at
finally
all.
went right for Venusaur in Generation 3. The
God
Leaf
damn it,
Seed
Game
buff
Freak.
meant it now had access to one of the best moves in the game, and it went hand in hand with its ability to dish out Sleep. And Sleep
Cool.
Talk no longer calling Rest Recovery.
Sorry,
Sleep was
doggo.
much
You
more
have
effective,
officially
too. The only
lost-
type immune to least
I have
effect
officially
was
lost
Grass.
interest.
Guess what? For those, Venusaur packed an amazing new toy, Stab Sludge Bomb, which also brandished a nasty 30% poison rate for even more status passive damage. It was far
I
too
could put
good
my
for
dog up
Ryu,
there,
but
actually.
This time, OU viability was well within its grasp. The tier was usually dominated
Would
by
that
the
even be
go-to
possible?
grass and one of the best Pokemon full stop, Celebi, who loves spamming Leech Seed itself, especially alongside the newly buffed Spikes and permanent Sandstorm. Now, Venusaur couldn't match Celebi's all-around excellence, but it carved out a serious niche for itself thanks to Sleep Powder. Venusaur was no gimmick. Sure, you couldn't slap it on every team, but it
know
was
you're
used
gonna
at
want this
high-level
soon,
play
bud.
because its play pattern of shutting something down with Sleep into throwing out Leech
I
Seeds was among
might
the most
have enough
irritating in the
sand,
game. That was absolutely incredible
maybe.
for setting tempo early on. Venusaur was actually quite a good lead because of how well it led off against common variants of Zapdos, Tyranitar, Suicune, Metagross, and Skarmory. This is an absolutely incredible matchup strategy set, with Salamence being the only common lead that's...
Sorry, bud. I want you to eat that food immediately. Like, no questions asked. I need you to eat that food. I don't want it. I don't want to be tempted by it.
If it didn't want to be
only left
easy bait for Venusaur's
temptation.
teammates, or even Venusaur itself, as Venusaur's commonly carried stats
I want to
Sludge Bomb
change.
threatened the daylights
I
out of
want the
Celebi. It was
temptation
also
to
an excellent
overcome
move for
this
pressing
little
other common
bunny.
matchups, or switches
Be
like
the
Zapdos,
bigger
Salamence,
bunny
and
bugs.
Blissey.
Let this
Early
poor
Venusaur often
man
ran
go.
racially for the high PP and solid
I'm
crit rate,
sorry.
but eventually
I'm
shifted
so
to
sorry.
Giga Drain for the slightly higher damage and the burst of recovery reinforcing how deceptively difficult it could be to KO. Instant Fire was a great choice to chip away at Metagross, Jirachi, and Skarmory, but if these steals were dealt with, as they often were on the Skarmory Magneton team,
Wait. I got a better laugh for you.
Then Venusaur could slot in Roar, which made it even more devastating as a long
The
spike
nasally
and
laugh.
Leaf Seed.
That
It was already
obnoxious
a
fucking,
swift move
like,
forcing Nightmare,
just a,
and this
it's that
exacerbated things
obnoxiously
wonderfully.
annoying
At
laugh.
first, Venusaur was largely focused on bulk, but it eventually got faster and faster to outrun offensive Suicune, and this took the game to the next level, giving it more and
I'll
more
use
opportunity to
normal
fire off its
fucking-
fleets and leashes, and stab
I'll
even
use
at
dirt
low
for
health.
this.
As
It'll
such,
look
Venusaur was
nicer.
one of the best BL Pokemon to use in Gen 3 OU. Venusaur was largely overlooked through much of Generation 4 OU by virtue of the newcomer Roserade completely overshadowing it. But towards the end of the generation, Venusaur was discovered to have its own niche, thoroughly distinct from Roserade, not outclassed whatsoever because it was much physically bulkier. Which
Oh yeah,
led to
Venusaur could
the
take
likes
its
of Tyranitar,
way
Gyarados,
better
a
than
major advantage
Roserade.
over its competition, while still dealing with electric and special attacking waters and grasses.
Are you
as
shitting me,
Roserade
dude?
would. In these early stages, Venusaur often paired with its best friend from UU, Milotic, another rising star, and the two took on a great deal of the metagame, beautifully anchoring the balanced teams they were used on. Once again, Venusaur used Sleep Powder and Leech Seed to great effect.
Yeah,
while
I still
also
don't have enough
brandishing
dirt for
Mewtwo like
this.
Sludge Bomb coming off of its far superior special attack stat in the light of the new physical special split, as well as a much improved grass stat in the hard-hitting Leaf Storm, capable of thrashing something like offensive Suicune even after a Calm Mind boost, especially if Ice Beam knocked Venusaur into overgrow range. Grass Knot was also a solid
Okay, I can't go any further though, because that's gonna get fucking knocked off if I do.
Venusaur struggled against substitute variants of Rotom Defiance. Venusaur was a legitimate part of many great teams, used to success at the highest level of tournament play for many years, one of the best non-OU Pokemon to use in OU, both specially and physically defensive sets shining. Some players even used Lee's physical defense Venusaur to totally dominate Machamp League. Then Clefable began dominating the tier, Venusaur's Leech Seed shenanigans were shut down completely, and its niche largely dissipated. It still had potential though, as Sleep was as fierce as ever, and its access to knockoff meant it could actually bait and mess with Clef quite well. It was mostly overlooked, but the skills lay there for any player willing to give it a shot. Now, we mentioned Venusaur's UU best friend Milotic, and yes, indeed, this means that Venusaur was UU. It wasn't just in the tier though, it was the single best Pokemon around.
Oh yeah, in
Milotic was
Generation
right behind it at
4
number
fucking
2, and the two
Venusaur was
pairs to take on an
absolutely OP
absolutely
as
enormous swath of the
fuck, dude.
metagame.
It was
Milotic itself
amazing in the
absolutely
tier.
monstrous to deal with for offensive teams. A nigh impenetrable wall that also...
Oh yeah, and it was also impossible to
Effortlessly.
kill. That didn't probably help the
Except
people
Venusaur.
going up against
Venusaur
it.
was the single best Pokemon at switching into Milotic, shrugging off Surf, unafraid of Toxic, and quite capable of dealing with Ice Beam, even on offensive sets. Many sets ran Synthesis, and would easily undo the damage as Milotic switched. Once Venusaur had its entry on this top tier threat, or many others, but Milotic was by far the biggest, it proceeded to absolutely dominate nearly everything in sight. Its stabs absolutely massacred so much of the tier, with most common grass resist like Arcanine adamantly refusing to switch into Sludge Bomb, to poison resistant ground.
There we go, that'll be okay. I think that'll look okay.
Oh, and what about Registeel, Chansey, Clefable? Yeah, those got slept and removed by Dugtrio, or pressured by other teammates like Nyx, Blaziken, or Specs Moltres looking for a free switch. Because Venusaur wasn't just a threat on its own, it enabled its teammates beautifully both through its Milotic countering and shutting down of an opponent through sleep. Alternatively, Reggie, Chansey, and Clefable just lose one-on-one to Swords Dance and Mix Venusaur. And actually, it's only specially defensive Clefable that takes standard special life.
Yes.
The others got blown away.
God damn it,
Even
no.
special defense Clefable had to be very
Fuck.
careful with its health, lest it fall into range of the combination of Sludge Bomb and Leaf Storm. Venusaur was an effortless threat to begin with, but then you throw in
This
its
is so
incredible
annoying,
set
bro.
variety, and it truly became the king of the tier.
Aesthetic
Capable
building
of
is such
flying
a
onto
pain in
nearly
the fucking
any team
ass,
and
dude. I
performing
swear to
incredibly
God.
well. We We've mentioned the special attacker, which by and by can run Black Sludge as its item and make up for the loss of power by reinforcing the longevity, which gives it opportunities to fire off its attacks.
Okay, I
as
think
well as some
that's
mixed
good.
and SD
Blaze
variants
be
already.
good.
Venusaur also excelled at utility with both physically and specially defensive sets. They still naturally hit offensive threats hard a la Milotic, and the added bulk made them much more difficult to take down on either side of the spectrum. These variants were some of the most integral parts of Stall Team. Additionally, Scarf Venusaur was downright
Okay, I
excellent, with
think I
fast
got
sleep
it. It
powder
took
starting
almost
games
every
off
ounce
well,
of
as
dirt
well
that
as
I had,
hidden
but
power
I'm
rock
fucking
to dump
done.
Moltres and Psychic
I have to go
That
get more
said,
sand
Scarf
now, too, 'cause I
Venusaur didn't
wasted
have
it
to
all
use
on
that
that.
position and was also a great late game cleaner. The only true Venusaur counter was Wheezing, and even then it was a very specific variant of Wheezing, especially defensive Rest Talk. A fine set to be sure, but this was incredibly limiting. Venusaur was so good, so incredibly popular, that it single-handedly nullified Toxic Spikes as a strategy in UU. The strategy was so often a waste when Venusaur was absolutely everywhere to absorb
Okay,
the
cool.
T-Spike
That's
on entry,
exactly
and
what
thus
I
they were
needed,
almost never
actually.
seen.
Maybe a little
Venusaur's
overkill, but
excellence
I'll take
extended
it.
to an immense difficulty in being countered reliably, an issue exacerbated by the incredible ease
Oh,
with which it hit
thank
the field.
goodness
And
that's
thus, there
over,
were times where
dude.
some top players wanted it suspect tested. This never came
Okay.
to pass, though.
I just
and
need to get the
Venusaur
glass.
continued to reign
Just
as
need
the
to get my
king
bed,
of the
and we'll
fourth
be done.
generation of UU. Generation
See, it
5
takes
bestowed
over. It's
upon
8 over
Venusaur
8,
the
right? So I need
chlorophyll ability. And seeing as
I
Permanent Sun was
need
making
10.
its OU debut, Venusaur rocketed into OU proper for the first time ever. It was
Oh,
the
yeah,
Sun
chlorophyll
Keeper.
Venusaur
Yes, there
and
was
Sun.
Volcarona, and there were other chlorophyll users like Lilligant
Stung.
and Tossbug, and even things like
Oh, there's
Blaziken,
two.
Heatran, and Scarf Victini and Darmanitan. But Venusaur was it. Well, at first it was Blaziken, but that got banned pretty quickly on account of being absurdly broken. And then Venusaur was it. The best systems ever was
Blaziken
never
outclassed
seen
it at
was
first, but then
too
Venusaur
good.
came back.
Single-handedly justifying the use of Sun with how effortlessly it converted a Wand Weather War into a Wand Battle. Venusaur was an utter terror.
I'm just gonna
in
take
Sun,
the whole
especially
stack,
with the
just
help
in
of his
case.
teammate Doug
You never
Shriel to
know.
remove
I bet
Heatran.
it'll take more than
Yes,
27.
Venusaur could
Can't
run
imagine how
Earthquake,
much, but
it was
it'll probably be
generally
more than
a
that.
waste,
This will
especially
prevent
against
squids from being able to
movable
launch me into the
options
water
already.
randomly.
Those options, by the way, absolutely killer. Sleep Powder was nightmarish with Generation 5 sleep mechanic.
But I'm not gonna, like, make it wrap around the edges. That'd be stupid. It just needs to wrap around the main walkway as a whole. Oh yeah, shit, I need to put this in the fucking Crucible.
In which case it gave both stats.
Why do you even need quartz for this? This is stupid. They nerfed this recipe back to just being sand. Because it was like, dude, it just hurts the aesthetic building. It really doesn't do much for you.
3 attacks: Grass Stab, Sludge Bomb, and HP Fire. In Black and White 1, the Grass Stab was Energy Ball, since Giga Drain was incompatible with Chlorophyll, and this was already terrifying. But then in Black and White 2, Giga Drain became available, and Venusaur wound up out healing its own life
Alright.
with its own boosted attack.
I'll need a door for this area too. Yep, took more than 27. It took 34. LOL.
Couldn't beat it anymore, as Venusaur would siphon their health for itself and beat them after 3 growths. Yes,
I
Sleep was
don't know
nice,
how
but
I
you'd
feel
also
about
have
that.
to choose between dropping growth and having coverage issues. And Sleep was generally overkill when a +2 Life Orb Venusaur was smashing pretty much everything in its path. It could and sometimes did mix it up though, in addition to running Sleep Powder and 3 attacks, or occasionally tossing HP Ice in the mix,
it was
which were
right there,
devastating
was
against
it?
teams with Dragonite and Garchomp as anti-sun measures. A particularly effective alternative Venusaur set was Subsea, which was like a terrifying cross between Jump Fluff and Shaman Sky, except it was far, far bulkier than either of them. While Sun was generally synonymous with offense, Sun's stall teams were quite effective as well. And in addition to
I just now
Cresselia,
realize that I've been
Quick Stall
overkilling
powers
on my
of
fucking
Subsea
glowstone
Venusaur
this
was the
whole fucking
biggest
time,
factor
dude.
fueling their viability. Sun was initially seen as far inferior to the Sand and Rain dominating OU, but over time, it was discovered that at high level
Really?
play,
That's
Sun
only
had the
16,
capacity to run
dude.
circles around them to completely bowl them over. And this was largely thanks to the absolutely incredible threat Growth Venusaur posed. And against weatherless teams unable to contest the Sun, forget it. Once Venusaur and friends, mostly Venusaur, started trucking their way to a victory left and right in high-level tournaments, the player base began to take notice. And a major theme they observed was that Sun teams, far from being the lesser weather, were actually kind of overpowered. Preparing for them was immensely restricting in the team builder, and if you didn't bring rather specific measures to handle Sun, you were almost certainly going to be utterly helpless against it in battle, and this was almost solely thanks to Venusaur. Most threats teams are weak to can still be outplayed through a variety of means, but seeing as Venusaur outsped and destroyed such an enormous portion of the game, with choice Scarfers left in the dust, your options were quite limited, unreasonably so. Clamoring to deal with Sun began among the player base, with many top players citing Sun as the single biggest issue in the tier, ruining the metagame, only existing to try and grab matchup wins, with preparation for it coming at the expense of the rest of the tier. But remember, by the time this chorus was resonating through the land, Black and White OU had become an old generation. Old gens didn't receive tiering, except for the most extreme cases as they were considered over and done with. And in an unprecedented move, in the same swoop that brought Exegdrill back to
Stack
OU,
and a half?
Chlorophyll wound up being banned alongside Drought, following the same precedent as the Drizzle Swift Swim ban all those years before, with an official tournament using as a testing ground for the ensuing metagame. And it was universally agreed upon. Chlorophyll wound up never returning.
Chlorophyll got banned.
Venusaur.
Yeah, Chlorophyll was pretty, was pretty OP, wasn't it?
Brought Sun into this position. After the ensuing bans of Arena Trap, some thought Chlorophyll might be more palatable, as it was now without its scariest enabler in Dugtrio. The eventual sleep ban was received similarly, but most of the player base remembered how terrifying Venusaur was, and wisely chose not to invite that terror back into the tier. Venusaur was never allowed to drop to UU in this post-Sun metagame, unfortunately, and there it would have thrived, but still, for how it completely bent OU to its will.
Yes, they can't get me. Oh my god, it's a miracle.
Old generation tiering, because it was such an issue, and as such, Generation 5 was a monstrous, smashing success for Venusaur. Generation 6 removed Permanent Sun, but it also gifted Venusaur an absolutely amazing Mega Evolution, and a unique one at that. Whereas most Megas were all about screaming levels of offense intent on making past generations of Ubers look like Aryu, Mega Venusaur was blessed with absolutely incredible bulk, jumping from base 83 defense and 100 special defense to 123 defense and 120 special defense. Not only that, it gained Thick Fat as its ability, so unless you were Terravolt, Cure, and Black, you would no longer hit it super effectively with Fire or Ice moves. Sure, with a Mega Stone it couldn't receive passive recovery from Black Sludge, it'd be just fine for longevity. If really necessary on a slower paced team, it wouldn't be difficult to slap Wish on a teammate that it had good synergy with, like Clefable, while Venusaur could also still
okay, so it's 17 blocks. We'll just count it as the middle with the gravel.
Venusaur loved the change of grass types no longer being affected by Spore or Sleep Powder. Sure, this slightly annoyed it too, but it had plenty of moves it already wanted to use, and it more so enjoyed the fact that it now completely blanked Breloom. On that note, Mega Venusaur was also a force offensively. Part of the reason its Giga Drains were so good at replenishing
it can just go right here. This will be a better spot, probably.
Going from base 100 to
actually, no, it'll be a great spot, actually.
Were newly threatening in that they had gained important super effective coverage against Fairy types. Its resistance to Fairy moves was also a major boon for Mega Venusaur's defensive profile. In the chaos that was early XY, Mega Venusaur provided much needed stability.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, maybe right here's actually a better spot. Never mind.
Keldeo to Thundurus to Azumarill. It stonewalled so much offense. There were Pokemon that could actually hurt it, and the likes of Talonflame, the Lati Twins, and Landorus Incarnate did not want to take a Sludge Bomb poison, to say nothing of the hefty chunk of damage.
Oh, I can hit through fence posts in this. What?
By virtue of this trait, Venusaur
That's
was the
right! I can safe zone the squids. Oh my god. No way.
Against the beast that was Protean Greninja, forcing extra Sentry if it wanted to get anything done. It was unbelievably tanky with bulk investment, as Mega Venusaur hardly needed an attacking investment for its boost to strong defensive bulk, given its natural strength and great coverage. However, eventually it was discovered that Mega Venusaur was, of course, just with max HP, and if you gave it a modest nature and max special attack, it retained its hit-taking ability while becoming a downright ferocious special attacker in its own right, making it even more difficult to deal with. This became the go-to Mega Venusaur variant on
nice.
Team, and it excelled. Then ORAS came around, and post-Mega Salamence ban, the focus was still on new Megas like Diancie, Metagross,
yeah, I have no bones.
However, Mega Venusaur's effectiveness never waned, and the player base quickly discovered its strengths to be just as consistent as before.
I need to make kibble immediately, or my dogs are gonna get, or my dog is gonna get pissed off at me.
Completely stifling Superior, as well as any Manaphy lacking the otherwise niche Psychic. Stall teams generally went with Mega Sableye during ORAS's heyday, but once it was banned, Mega Venusaur gave such teams new life. It was not a
I'll just take both of my
Mega,
stacks out just in
Mega
case.
Venusaur was among the most reliable, consistent, successful Megas in Generation 6 OU. Meanwhile, base Venusaur dropped past UU and landed in RU, where in a manner quite similar to DPP UU, it was absolutely incredible, almost unbearably good in the way it twisted the metagame into a shape that tried to deal with it, and only kind of succeeded, because it was basically impossible to stop the Venusaur train. The classic Life Orb special attack
I don't like
was
that. I'm
utterly
breaking that.
monstrous,
It's making
with
me
its
uncomfortable.
stats packing both beautifully complementary coverage and resistance.
Call me all the names you want.
This time, if it didn't want
But
to
it is
use
what it
Sleep Powder,
is.
that could be pivoted around by other grasses, or the similarly buffed Overcoat Escavalier. Venusaur could utilize a buff knockoff, removing the recovery of anything that switched into it, like its old enemy Registeel. You know, that Pokemon completely reliant on leftovers to heal, or the Eviolite that Golbat was relying on to function. Knockoff was also
Oh yeah, I also have to go chop wood. We're actually gonna go ahead and go grind up some bones while I'm at it.
Venusaur was also a superb Pokemon, acting as an integral part of a team's core in the line of defense against major threats, most notably the fighting types Virizion, Hitmonlee, and Sawk. This Venusaur was a massively important part of the balance team, which defined the metagame. Their measured pace, slower and considered, yet with great capacity to beat the opponent.
I unfortunately do not have enough fucking bones though. Or not bones, rotten flesh to really make it work though. Bones are easy to get. It's the fucking flesh that the zombies never fucking drop. For whatever godforsaken reason, they had to go and nerf the drop rates of fucking zombies.
Venusaur's skill set translated to a nigh flawless Pokemon.
Oh, what are you gonna do, huh?
It was one of the very best.
Yeah, you're not worth my time, bud. Sorry.
Pokemon around. And so Generation 6
Really?
was absolutely amazing for Venusaur. It took the gift of a Mega Evolution for Venusaur to make its mark on VGC, but that little Mega Stone transformed into a versatile and nuanced competitor that was a threat with or without its Mega Stone. Big Fat turned Mega Venusaur into an absolute tank, capable of dishing out good damage with Sludge Bomb, disrupting the enemy team with...
Yeah, I don't have enough rotten flesh. Wait.
Healing moves like Leech Seed, Giga Drain, or even Synthesis. It wasn't uncommon...
Zombie, oh my god, please, 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 please.
Or even 1v3s, winning endgame scenarios with the proper prep. That is against most Pokemon. What made Venusaur so interesting was the lopsided matchup spread it had against the rest of the metagame. You see, 2014 had the big three Megas, Kangaskhan, Mawile, and Charizard Y. And while Mega Venusaur did well against pretty much every other mon that wasn't a flying or psychic type, the big three just had too much power for it to sustain through. Mega Venusaur was a win con in its own right, except against the most powerful mons in the format. So if you were relying on it, you better have a good game plan to handle those threats. Garchomp and Rotom Wash were very frequent partners. Both had good matchups against the big three, and Rotom Wash in particular could form a fire, water, grass core, often with
what the hell?
One, which, well, let's talk about it.
No, please stop.
Solo,
why are the items getting stuck there?
All on his lonesome to good success.
Am I gonna have to fucking put the damn hoppers like one over?
On in the format, when Tony Xiong placed third at
what
the
hell?
And Colton
okay, well that would definitely explain why it's not giving me what I fucking want.
When paired with its fellow Gen 1
what the fuck?
Mega Charizard Y. Because sure, Thick Fat was a pretty great ability, but so was Chlorophyll. With Zard Y by its side, Venusaur went from a slumbering tanky behemoth to the fastest thing on 4 legs, and then it could go back again. See, this
why is it getting stuck here?
Meaning when you saw a Venusaur and a Charizard on the enemy team, you knew that Venusaur was probably going to be faster than you.
What the fuck? Am I going insane?
Suddenly mega evolve.
Why?
Venusaur boasted sleep
how is it getting stuck though?
Every other unboosted mon in the format, making it a stupendous facilitator for Zard Y's firepower. It's hard to overstate just how annoying sun boosted sleep power
hang on. Let me check
75%
something real quick. Hold up.
But here's the thing. Venusaur could come in with Charizard and still mega
did I make the fucking like thing go straight up against it? And spoiler alert, if I have to redesign this thing, I swear to fucking god, dude, I'm going to be so pissed.
Venusaur was unique in that it could serve as the team's primary mega or Charizard's best friend, all while using the same build. Honestly, it was probably one of the most dynamic uses of Mega Evolution around, capable of inspiring multiple levels of 50-50s in one battle. First, you've got to guess if it's even holding the Mega.
You have to fucking push the items onto there. Big surprise.
Or wide lens might change how the entire match.
Oh, I see. It's not guaranteed as why. It's over that, but I had to put down like 4 fucking hoppers just to do it. So I just have to add an extension point to it is all. That's okay. I can live with that. So basically, I just need hoppers right there, and then I can put, another round of fucking. Actually, I could probably just make them go directly into it from the base, right? I'll figure it out later. It's fine. We need to go saw logs, anyways. The fuck? What the hell? Why did I do that? Stop it.
Use things like Swords Dance, Petal Blizzard, Venusaur at that tournament to get 27th place.
You're not gonna launch me in, bud. It's not gonna happen.
To establish a strong presence throughout 24
this is why I put that there, to block them from being able to hit me.
One or two of them them in top 8 alongside the
Anyways.
and the Mawile. In Orlando, Matt Sorby and Steven Morioka both made top 8 with Venusaur, while in the Asia Cup, Visho pioneered Protect Less Synthesis Mega Venusaur, a move that made opponents rip their hair out just when they thought they had the battle locked up. Some players even had success experimenting with Venusaur alongside other Mega Pokemon. Randy Quahl, ever the innovator, notched a silver medal in Seattle by reuniting it with its other console starter. Triple Cross III 2 used it alongside
I'm gonna let that go.
second place regional finish. Hale Ryer tried it with Lucario, Blake Hopper and Shockey Horstein, both top cut regionals with Mawile, and still solo Mega Venusaur and Venusard continue to thrive, as evidenced by players such as Andrew Burley and Eduardo Mendez. Some players even used Charizard to bluff Sun, then pulled the rug out with a hashtag Venusaur sweep. Max Douglas, Seattle 4th placer, wrote about this very strategy. Venusaur appeared in top cuts at about a 50-50 rate with or without Zard, and then 50-50 Mega even in the Zard team. That's versatility. Even its moveset started to become more unpredictable, with Leaf Throw rising in popularity to get one-hit KOs on Rotom Wash, and Hidden Power Fire making the odd appearance to handle steel types. By the time 2014 Nationals rolled around though, people knew what to expect from Venusaur. Sure, it was a versatile Pokemon, but its power level just couldn't match up to the big three, and many turned up their nose at using a Mon whose primary job was a 75% accurate move. Players were instead focused on dealing with
That's not the perfect center, I don't care.
leading to a rise in Pokemon like Aegislash, another one of Venusaur's most loathed themes. The agreed upon consensus was that Venusaur was good, but not great. Early national results seemed to confirm this.
22.
Venusaur had some good results. Zacharias Dom took 6th in Germany with Zard Y, while Florian the Flow Werdick brought a new type of Sun Bluff to the table with a Zard X team for a 10th place. Venusaur was absent from the UK Nationals top 8, though it did have some top 16 placements, and in Australia, Jane O'Meara locked in the only national wins for Venusaur on a hyper-offensive Sun.
And with this, we have everything that we need.
Heliolist. And then US Nationals came. Sure, only one Masters Venusaur player made top 8, but 8 different players in top 32 used Mega Venusaur, making it the second most used Mega in the tournament, and putting it at 21.74% usage overall. This was a huge surprise, especially since the game was revolving around Kangaskhan, Venusaur's worst matchup. Those players who succeeded with Venusaur had robust anti-Kang plans, such as top 8 finisher Gavin Michaels, who used Synthesis Mega Venusaur alongside a Mega Lucario designed to handle Kangaskhan. Venusaur also performed above expectations against
Would that be
Mawile
right?
and
3 over
Charizard
6?
Y,
Yeah, that's right.
which
The
was
math
potentially
checks
just
out there.
its way through iffy matchup. Here's an
I'm
interesting
just gonna take all the
stat.
sugar,
8
fuck 'em.
teams made
Whatever's
top
left, I'll
10
just
at
pick
US
out.
Nationals using 2 Megas. 6 of them had a Venusaur, and only one of them was a Venusaur Charizard team. Rashawn Shakar, Randy Quahl used manual Sunny Day Venusaur and Mega Blastoise. Alec Rubin used Mega Tyranitar, and Jonathan Rankin
Cool.
and Brian Jen used
And you
Venusaur
just saw some
alongside
logs real quick,
Kangaskhan. It makes sense
and
when
then
you
we'll be
think
done.
about it. Venusaur
And
was
they'll
a
sell
very
out all of
self-sufficient
them too,
Mega,
by
but his
the way.
matchups were drastic, either incredibly strong or weak. Build a strong core of other mons and then let Venusaur do its thing. Hard walling raid or punishing teams with no flying types or Kangaskhan. It can also still function in Sun even if you have no Zard. Enemy Sun. Having a Venusaur in team preview meant opposing Zard players had to think twice about their own speed tier. There were also 3 players who made top 32 with Venusaur as their only Mega. Evan DeLingianis, Jason Fisher Short, and Jason Ihakona. all added notched a 1st and 3rd place in seniors, credit to Mackenzie Cazaros and Paul Chua respectively. Sadly for Venusaur, US Nats would be the highest point of its season. Worlds was all Kangaskhan and anti-Kangaskhan, and this side Venusaur really struggled. Marcus Luke gave it a high water finish with his 4th place Mawile and Machamp team, but Venusaur only had 3 other reps in top 32 and dropped to 10% usage. It continues to drop through the post-Worlds regionals after 2015 meta loomed. 2015 brought a bevy of threats that made Venusaur's life very hard. On the Mega side, the Big 3 was now a Big 5, and Venusaur did not particularly love either of the additions, Metagross
Nice.
and Salamence. On the non-Mega side, Heatran and Amoonguss were Nightmare Mon. That said, there were a few new
Okay.
Pokemon that accompanied Venusaur.
So I have a
this year.
shell. What
Graphia
the
handled
hell?
Kangaskhan well,
How did it
while
end up
Venusaur
down
never feared
here?
seeing it on the other team.
What
While
the
Cresselia
hell?
was another threatening Psychic type. It added dimension to Sun teams by giving them slow
Okay, cool.
play and trick
Many
remote.
thanks,
Things
Cauldron.
Venusaur appreciated quite a bit.
And many
Venusaur
thanks,
had never
Crucible,
been a
for the,
Pokemon meant
boots
to solve
earlier.
all matchups, and creative team builders were still able to give it good placement.
Come on.
Especially early on in the season, when the meta was more open. Christopher Corio Arthur took bronze at the Dutch Regional Championships, which Alejandro Jimenez followed up with his own podium finish in California, where Naraz Bashir took 7th on a non-Zard team. Carl Concepcion and Wolf Glick gave Venusaur its first regional wins of the format. Carl used a neat Trick Room Cresselia Chandelure 2013, while Wolf put his patented defensive play to use with prankster Mega Bandit.
Good
Miguel used it as a
news!
solo
I got
meta
you
in
more
Mexico City, while
food.
Jerry took it down to Georgia alongside Malo.
Awesome, let's go. Yeah.
A top tier Mega, but good enough to be in
Anyways, now that that's all done
with,
with,
all of these players. While you
yeah,
can
I'm just gonna
expect
fill it
to
in.
do
I don't need to
much
worry
the
about any of
same
that.
thing it did in 2014. There were some changes. Leech Seed went up on Mega Venusaur, while Sleep Power became more.
Oh, sorry,
exclusive
doggo.
to those
I'm
of the
moving.
sun.
I'm
Players
out.
experimented with more covers like Hidden Power Ice, Orlando's Therian, and Mega Man. Venusaur was absent from top 16 at both US and UK Nationals, but it did have some presence in other regions. Sean Ronzani and longtime Venusaur fan DeFlo both secured 5th place finishes with
As much as I hate to admit it,
Australia and Italy.
I have no
respectively.
need
But his
for
best
living in this
performance was
particular
in
house
Germany,
any
where it
longer.
had
I
3
might
of the
try to
top
work
60
you into the
placements, courtesy
upstairs of that
Christopher
place, so
Schumacher,
that
Luca
way
Bridlick Paz,
you can
and
give
his
me
greatest
poo
hero,
while being up
Marcus
there.
Steffen, the lone successful Venusaur player at Nax, who took
Okay,
home
come on.
gold.
Don't
But
you
as
dare
the
open the fire.
started to take form, Venusaur's chances of good worlds dwindled. A comp with Kangaskhan, Heatran, and Amoonguss was a close
Yeah,
nightmare.
let's go,
With that,
bud.
it's hard
You
to
and
call
me. Let's
Venusaur's
get going.
performance at Worlds a quote-unquote disappointment. Gennaro Vallejo and Luca Bridlick Paz
Come on, boy.
both placed top 16, and for such
Hey,
an
set.
unfavorable meta, we'll take that. Gen 6 was a VGC debut Venusaur could be proud of, and while it never quite broke through the highest levels of the meta in comparison to other Mega Pokemon, it was undeniably one of the most interesting users of the generational gimmick. Mega Evolution was a mechanic that was intended to bring nuance and a moment-to-moment decision-making.
Surprised they
Instead,
didn't-
it was
well,
often the
I guess
case
you wouldn't
that
really-
hitting the big blind
ow.
button was a no-brainer.
Okay, hold up, I can
Kangaskhan
fix
was the
this.
poster child for what Mega Evolution ended up as in reality, a massive boost of power that pushed some monsters into the stratosphere. Venusaur was the beacon of what it could have been, although relying on sun-boosted sleep powder to win was maybe a little annoying. Venusaur returned to the OU metagame with
Nice.
incredible efficiency, once again staving off a massive slew of monster threats and providing stability for the balance teams it held together. It absolutely dominated Magearna, one of the tier's most controversial threats, while also helping massively against Greninja, both Protean and the new Battle Bond, as well as Kartana, Tapu Koko, and Tapu Bulu. It especially loved the presence of Bulu on opposing teams, since grassy terrain provided Mega Venusaur passive recovery. Mega
don't even
Venusaur
know if I'm gonna have
generally
enough
didn't
to
run
do
Giga Drain
this.
as much this gen. It wanted Leech Seed too much, since that's what let it
God
take on
damn
even
it.
Calm Mind boosted Magearna so well. But if paired with Magnezone and thus not needing Hidden Power Fire, Mega Venusaur
Nope,
could
I'm not
also
gonna have
enjoy the
enough.
benefits
There's
of
just
a
no
grassy
way.
terrain boosted Giga Drain when countering
God
opposing
damn it,
Tapu
dude.
Bulu.
Really?
Though dropping HP Fire, and also like considering the use of knockoff. Speaking of enjoying the presence of Tapus, Mega Venusaur
Of course
loves
I don't
playing with
have
Tapu
enough. It would
Fini,
be too
whose
easy if I
Misty
had
Terrain
enough.
guarded it from burns from Scald and
Fine.
Roller Wash. Though if it did get burned, Mega Venusaur still wasn't getting worn
Oh
down
my god,
easily,
what the
thanks to
hell?
status now having been nerfed to deal 6.25%
Thank you, doggo.
per turn. Mega Venusaur
Scared the
most
hell out of me.
famously, commonly, and effectively partnered with another Leech Seed user, Celesteela. The Venus-Steela combination, as it was called, took on an enormous portion of the many offensive threats flying around every corner of the Gen 7 OU metagame, and were especially effective
How
at
did I
doing
just
so
do that?
because of their combined Leech Seed spam. Playing offense while bolstering their own defense. Wearing down the opponent while healing yourself is just as good as it sounds when coming from such amazing defensive Pokemon. The two were so lights out, they, alongside Toxapex, completely invalidated a
Toxapex
team unable
joins
to
the
break
fun.
through them, which is to say, they invalidated a lot of teams. Mega Venusaur's status as a grounded poison was also especially useful in this generation for guarding against Toxapex's dangerous toxic spikes. Mega Venusaur continued to define balanced teams into Ultra Sun and Moon, where it especially enjoyed the greater anti-hazard support it received through the wider distribution of the fog, most notably on a newly effective teammate Tornadus Therian. Now it was more difficult to wear down with something like Greninja Spikes, so it had to spend fewer turns manually healing with Synthesis and could instead threaten the opponent actively with Leech Seed or Sludge Bomb. As Mega Mawile became scarier and scarier, Mega Venusaur's role became especially important as perhaps the only true counter to it in OU. Mega Mawile had to run Iron Head to deal real damage to it. Not a bad move, but one it struggled to fit into its moveset immensely. So overall, Mega Venusaur was a strong force in OU. Despite this, Mega Venusaur wound up falling to UU, and this was not at all a knock against it or reflection of its OU viability, as it never stopped being effective there. It was more so the fact that there was a slew of effective strategies in OU, and Mega Venusaur wasn't as splashable.
Don't be
as
so,
other
actually I wouldn't be
Pokemon.
too
As it
surprised
dropped
if they
to UU,
nerfed
it did
swim
not quite
speed
feel
when you're
outrageously
when you're
broken.
peckish
It
to
wasn't
being
the type of
half
Pokemon
like
that outsped and
half
one-hit
speed
killed
when you're
everything
going
in sight
up.
after all. But it wasn't
Okay,
long
no,
before
just
it
bear
dominated
with me
player
here,
base,
doggo.
and
I want to
Mega
see if I can
Venusaur
take
was
you up
overly
there.
restricted working in a different way for how hard it was to KO, and it was incredible.
Oh my god, is it actually gonna work?
Mega Venusaur hit way too hard. The few Pokemon that threatened
Come on.
it, like Latias and Togekiss,
Yes, you get to be up here with me now, bud. Oh my god, he'll also be safe from fucking getting possessed. Holy shit. Put the bed right there, and I can finally actually sleep with you.
Pokemon that actually forced it onto the battlefield against it was a task of Herculean difficulty, and actually withstanding its hits wasn't the easiest thing in the world either. Mega Venusaur was completely unafraid of UE standards like Mega Altaria, Scizor, Hydreigon, and Terrakion, and quickly had the metagame in a vice grip. The player base, unwilling to put up with it further, banned it to borderline. Finally, Mega Venusaur even had a small niche in Ubers. Its ability
Oh, I'm loving my base so much. Oh my god, it's actually starting to look like the old base. I'm so happy. I'm actually gonna cry, dude. It's so empty in here now.
As your Mega was much higher in Ubers, and it was quite a specific choice, only really seen on occasional balance teams, but the niche was there. Base Venusaur returned.
Now then, we're gonna test the thingy tonight, well, by sleeping on top of that. See if we can get any spawns on top of the packed earth. If not, it's not the end of the world. I'll just have to go get sand instead. Like I said, I don't understand why the devs even did that. It doesn't actually make the game harder, it just makes it more tedious. It's just a waste of their fucking time. If you ask me, it's not even worth it, dude.
Doom would ignore the charge turn. Overall, though, it generally stuck with good old Life Orb Giga Drain. The thing was that while Venusaur was very scary in the sun, it wasn't much of a threat outside of sun, and over-relying on the fragile Ninetales to maintain sun was difficult, especially since Ninetales' best sets ran Firium Z or Choice Specs, not the sun-extending Heat Rock. You were taking one of the scariest Pokemon in the tier, Ninetales, and giving it a
okay, good.
On occasion, and Ninetales was generally going to be more consistent alongside more self-sufficient grasses like Roserade and
Shit, I need a door. No. Stop, please.
Terror if it got going. And overall, Generation 7 was another massively successful one for Venusaur. Sun and Moon didn't add much to Venusaur's repertoire aside from the potential to fire off a one-time Gracium Z boosted attack, but the meta changed a lot around it, and it was overall unfavorable. Sure, there were 4 very strong.
I could maybe put gravel right here too, but we'll do that later. It's not a big deal. So it's gonna be Gloom Knight tomorrow.
One of them could blow up 3 Venusaurs with 1 terrain boosted Psychic, and the last one was another grass type that gave it competition. What's more, Mega Venusaur wasn't the hard stop terrain it once was. In Gen 6, it could eat up Politoes like they were nothing, but the new Drizzle user Pelipper was another matter. What with its 100% accurate Hurricane?
How many bits of glass do I actually need?
You got a pretty hostile environment. Leech Seed and Giga Drain sets based on longevity were the wave here due to the increased unreliability of Sleep Powder. Venusaur's good results in 2018 were far and
just make sure that it's completely sealed.
Equally split between Zard and non-Zard. Non-Zard players.
Okay, yes, it is. That's what I figured. You never know, right? It's not worth taking any risks over it, anyways.
Venusaur's best placement in the regular season came at Oceania Internationals, where Koji Morimoto finished just shy of a top 8 finish with a Sun variant that also included Crest and Snorlax for a Trick Room mode. Well, Worlds told the story of Venusaur's whole season. Only 2 placements in all of Day 2, thanks to Juan Nar and Javier Valdez. In the Seniors Division, Shota Yamada got top 4 and also won a 3v1 comeback with Venusaur.
Damn, bro.
It's quite epic. As for Masters, though, we can at least highlight Javier's team here. While Zard and Lander's steering were expected, his remaining 3 Pokemon were Nihil Eagle, Celesteela, and Rhydon, showcasing a new take on Sun and pairing.
I know I said I wasn't gonna do it, but I kind of want to do it.
Like a weeding
it's not gonna be perfectly even, but it'll definitely look nice.
Dismal 2018 season in the restricted meta of 2019. It's sure to be hard to understand why. They got a chance to play alongside the best Sunsetter to ever exist, Groudon. Now keep in mind that the 2019 season was split into 3 different formats. The first of them disallowed Z moves, Mega Crystals, and Primal Reversion, was called the Sun Series. But as we've come to expect from Venusaur, it thrived in the sun. Venusaur was a natural support pick for any Groudon team, and Groudon teams were good. Venusaur's ability to exert sweep pressure from the word go put a large team building burden on opponents, forcing them to bring safety goggles or grass type to handle handle Venusaur.
Just imagine if I accidentally
Alongside
placed it
Groudon,
underneath there like I
Xerneas was one of the
sometimes
best
do.
Pokemon in the format, a situation Venusaur was more than happy to handle, as it could either deal big damage via Sludge Bomb, or potentially halt Xerneas' Geomancy 7
Yes,
with
yes,
Sleep Powder.
beautiful.
Venusaur possessed the unique distinction of being able to hit all of Groudon, Kyogre, and Xerneas super effectively with its stab. While not entirely
That's
unique, I guess you
fine,
could
that's
use
fine.
Amoonguss or Victory Bell.
Okay,
but
cool, I only
yeah,
had to use one
Six and
glowstone, I'm
Venusaur.
impressed.
Speaking of Amoonguss, though, a common partner for
Yes,
Xerneas,
yes,
it
yes,
did
oh my
nothing to
fucking
destroy
god, it's
Venusaur,
actually almost
who could
done,
only
holy
be switched
shit.
from his course by 9 grass redirectors.
Took a
Gone
lot of
was the
work to
versatility
get to
of
this
his
point,
old
but
ways.
I'm
Venusaur
finally
and the Sun Series
caught
all had
up.
about the same moveset. In addition to Sleep Powder and Sludge Bomb, Grass Knot took the place
Alright,
of
we
the
won.
mandatory grass move of choice.
That's
due to
GG, boy.
Groudon and Kyogre's heavy weight. The
I
last
will
move
put
was
my
either
bed
Protect
right
or
here
Instant
tonight,
Fire, which let
because
Venusaur
I
take
want to
pressure on
observe
Amoonguss,
that
Solgaleo,
mob
Kartana, and
bit.
Bronzong. The overwhelming item of choice was Focus Sash, an extra
me
degree
sleep.
of
Come
safety
on.
necessary to keep Venusaur's role as a disruptor.
I can
intact.
kinda
Some
see it, I
Sleep Powder
guess.
teams often do well at the beginning of a format anyways, when game plans are more linear. If you don't quite know what's good yet, chances are a very fast Sleep Powder is alright. That said, Venusaur did extremely well in the Sun Series,
Nope.
even considering the
No
start
mobs
of
are
format
spawning
one.
there.
At Philadelphia
Even if
Regionals,
mobs are
the
spawning
late
behind me, there
Venusaur
should
took
still be at
part
least
with a team
one or
that
two
would come
mobs
to be the
spawning in that
meta-defining
spot.
mode for Sun. Venusaur alongside Groudon, Xerneas, Incineroar, Heatran, and Kartana. And no Shakar took 6 with a non-Sun Venusaur team, saving his as a countermeasure to other Groudons. But the
I'll make
real
sure to
story
light
there
up the
was
area.
Venusaur's
Most of it's
down
water,
table.
so that
5
actually really
players
helps
used
me out
Venusaur
quite a
in top
bit.
16, and it had 9 total appearances in top 32.
I'm going to bed
That
after
put it in the
this.
spot as the 4th most used Pokemon of the tournament. This was no outlier. Venusaur was 5th in usage at the Frankfurt Regionals. Same story at Memphis, where Venusaur made up nearly 40% of both the
Nope,
teams in top
no
8 and
mom.
top 16. However, as the Sun Series went on, players became more adept at managing weather, and Kyogre's tide rose while Groudon's sun set. Venusaur wasn't quite as ubiquitous as it had been at the start of the format. That said, it still put up plenty of good performances, with the highlight being Magav Malavia's Anaheim Regionals win, where he piloted the bulky restricted duel known as Yveldon.
I might
to
add a
a
little bit
first
more to
place
that
finish.
side.
The Moon
Just
Series
out to right there.
reintroduced Z-Crystals, giving Venusaur another option for firepower. Even in the Moon Series, the Sun still flourished. Venusaur, often with Groudon, had way too many good results to list, and to be honest, it was doing the same things most times. But go ahead and take a gander at these results while I recap the highlights. Thick Nails Navarre gave Venusaur another regional win early on in Dallas. We can use Nick's win to highlight the core Pokemon you'd almost always find with Venusaur. Groudon was a no-brainer, although there were still a scant few players who brought Venusaur on non-Sun teams to counter Sun. Incineroar was simply the best Pokemon in the format and loved the Sun. Xerneas was by far the most common partner restricted, and then the last 2 slots were where the customization happened. Some teams opted for a Trick Room mode with Stakataka, while others opted for Tapu Koko, a mod that had anti-synergy with Venusaur's Sleep Powders, but gave a more reliable way to deal with Yveltal and Kyogre. Speaking of Yveltal,
Nice.
Yveldon was still probably the 2nd most used restricted duo, but invented players did find other combos that let Venusaur shine. My personal favorite team of the Moon Series was probably Aurelian Forest's first place team from
Cool.
the Cannes Special event, which
That
consisted
fixes
of
the torch
Groudon,
problem,
Kyogre,
and allows it to
Ludicolo,
not have to have a
Shedinja,
torch.
and Ditto.
And
You can see
now
the
I can
idea
seal
behind
this
the
off
team
right
pretty clearly.
here,
Groudon
and maybe
plus
make
his
a
best
proper
friend,
pathway
Kyogre
right
plus
there.
its best friend, and then Shedinja and Ditto as the 2 wild cards. Venusaur was so good in Sun that it didn't always need full team support. You can see the same idea flipped on
I don't know
its head
yet.
via Alex Aran's 4th place.
We're gonna
Congo
have to
regional
fix the
team,
wiring
where he
on this,
used the
though.
restricted duo of Solgaleo and Zygarde. Neither of them weather setters, but Venusaur and Toxicroak were anti-weather mons, selected specifically for their ability
So,
to
given
function
that
as
this
long
goes
as the
like this,
sides
oh
were
yeah,
in
this'll
favor.
be
But as
easy
we've
to
come
do, bro.
expect, Venusaur usage went down as the format went on. None even made top 8.
Saws
with
are
all
right
two just
there.
missing out at 9. Solgaleo on the rise posed a big problem, and it faced steep competition for a grass type slot with
So wait a
Terraform
second,
and the
wait a
newly
second, wait a
rising
second.
Serena. And then came
So
the
the
Ultra
hoppers
Series.
are right
Yay,
here.
Venusaur
Oh yeah,
did
that'll
good.
be very
Great,
easy to do.
right?
All I have to
Raw.
do is just
Remember
run
how
the
Mega
line
Venusaur
underneath
couldn't
this,
stand up to the raw
and then like
damage
just
of
put
the
it in there
big
like
three
that.
Mega
It'll be
Venusaur
much
14.
easier
Well,
than
this
what
was
I'm
a
actually
format
putting
where
it off
every
as.
single Pokemon had that damage, and there was no way you were wasting your Mega Stone on a stall tactic with things like Mega Rayquaza, Mega Salamence, and Primal Groudon running around. In fact, you probably weren't wasting a team slot on Venusaur at all. It's not that Groudon usage went down. In fact, Groudon was one of the most popular restricted Pokemon. It's just that the successful Groudon teams of the Ultra Series weren't full Sun teams. Primal Groudon was strong enough on its own that it didn't need to index into taking advantage of the weather. And Venusaur's old matchup against Groudon got way worse.
Yep.
That additional fire
Like
typing
I
pretty much ruined any
suspected.
plans to
This
knock
is what
it out
happened
with
in
a
my
Grass
last
Knot.
world,
With Mega
though.
Rayquaza starting to
It
dominate
fucking
the
got
format,
clogged.
you were
Alright, I'll see y'all
hard-pressed to
tomorrow.
find a
Bye-bye. We'll
moment
fix
where
it tomorrow. It's all
Venusaur could
good.
get much done. You were probably going to fire off